Sorry, say that again.
What is ربع العشر? Is the quarter of the tenth. So quarter of the tenth, how much is it?
2.5.
2.5, that's it, yeah.
2.5%.
But these are only for silver and
gold.
Yeah.
No, but for other things they don't say 2.5. For the sheep, it's like it starts with 40. For every 40 sheep there is 1. For the camels, 5 camels, and then in five camels there is 1 sheep.
Okay.
Until there are 25, and then in 25 there is bint makhad and stuff. So this is okay. That is something that you are going to come to later. Anyway, the person on whom zakat is obligatory. It says they agreed that it is obligatory upon every Muslim who is free, baligh, sane, and who owns wealth equal to the nisab. Please comment on this. Can you just listen to what I am talking about? Yeah? If you are not interested, just let me stop. Okay, they agreed that it is obligatory upon every Muslim who is free, baligh, sane, and who owns wealth equal to the finish. They agreed that it is an obligation upon every Muslim that he who is free, like not slave, baligh, adult, sane, not crazy, and who owns wealth equal to the nisab. Please comment on this. What this is? The zakat is an obligation, no? أقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. So this zakat is an obligation on some people.
The male.
It is an obligation. It may be everybody, unless there is proof that some people are out. When the Quran speaks, gives an order, this is for all the Muslims. You understand? Now we see if there is a condition or not. Like salat is an obligation on every Muslim, but it's not an obligation on women during that period. Now zakat, it is an obligation, should be on every Muslim. But now, as well, some people might say, no, it's not on everybody, for different dalils. But of what we know, that all Muslims agree that there is zakat on certain type of people, that is the baligh, because there is different opinion about children. A child can be very rich. A man died and he left a child, and he left, you understand, a lot of money for him, and even though he is not going to deal with his money, he needs a guardian to look after his property, but still he owns the money. So do we pay zakat from money? There is different opinion about this. A slave can own a lot of money. You see the Mamalik, what we call the kingdom of Mamalik. If you heard Salah ad-Din Ayyubi time, and Salah ad-Din Ayyubi himself, and all these Zahir Bibars and Qalawun, these people are originally, they were leaders of the Muslims. Originally they were slaves. There are some of them who were leaders where they were still slaves actually. They have not been freed yet. Understand? Like a king a king who has many slaves. How do you think? And he treated his slaves, they are so close to him that he treats them like he gives them a lot of money. He gives them like he is the leader of the army, a slave. You understand? Leader of an army, how much money he has, you understand? But he is still slave. I mean, the king, the person who owns him can anytime take everything that he owns. This is agreed upon the Muslim, this is known. If he owns him, that means he owns what he owns.
So what if he gets married to a slave? Can the slave get married by his permission?
He can get married to a slave, yes.
To a slave or to any woman?
He can get married to any woman. A slave can get married to a free woman or to a slave woman.
Okay, if the master, because he owns the slave, and if everything is his, he earns his woman.
No, if he is married when he is married, he is married. He doesn't own her when he is married. He own to have a relationship with her. That's what he own. He doesn't own her when he is married. But if the slave has a slave, and his master wants to take the slave from him, he can't take the slave from him. Of course, they can't have the slave at the same time. It's either his property or, you understand? But the master, the slave can own property. He can own. You understand? But when the master can take it at any time, you understand? He can take it and make it his own.
Yeah, that's harsh.
Huh? No, it is. Even the hadith in the hadith of Ibn Umar, Sahih clearly, it says, whoever sells a slave, then his property is for the master, unless the one who buy him make it as a condition that I buy him with what he owned. You understand? If when they sell, okay, I sell you this slave, then okay, you take the slave. His property is mine. Because unless you make it a condition in the contract that you sell me the slave and his property.
If you don't sell his property, it belongs to him.
Yeah, he takes just the slave. Okay, so now there is a different opinion about the slave, about the child, about what we call mukatib. If they are going to, but other than this, any Muslim baligh, man or woman, who is not insane, must pay zakat. It is an obligation on him to pay zakat. It's clear from the Quran, who atu zakat. And then it says here, second, is zakat on the orphan, insane slaves. Ahl al-Dhimma, Arab Christians of Banu Taghlib, apparently Umar ibn Khattab took zakat from them. The person in debt or someone who has wealth in a trust, habs waqf. Now, zakat is on the orphan. Is it on the orphan? The orphan means someone who is not baligh. It doesn't necessarily be an orphan. He can be a child, not baligh, and wealthy. His father gave him something, property. You understand? Baligh, adult. Okay. So someone who is not an adult, we start with the no adult, whether he is orphan or not. Of course, the Zahiris say he must pay zakat. Yes, he must pay zakat. And so say Malik and Shafi'i. Abu Hanifa say he doesn't pay zakat except for the land, the zakat of the land. We have many different zakat of proper zakat. The Zahiris say zakat is on the land, but some of them say, like Ibn Hazm, say except for wheat, barley and dates, nothing else.
Zakat only for this?
Yes, this, the others say zakat everything in the land, the Zahiris. And then Ibn Hazm say the zakat, other zakat that he accepts, that it is in the animals, the cows, camels and sheep. He says anything else there is no zakat on it. And on the gold and silver, he say anything else, business, you have millions of houses, lands, cars, nothing. The majority contradict him. Say zakat almost in everything, except things that the person buy to keep, like a house, like a car to use. If he has cars to use, horses to ride, not to sell. The majority say these things. And then they differ on some details. Not exactly like everything has zakat. But then they go through some fruit, there is zakat, some fruit, there is no zakat, some property. You understand? That is something later. Now, the orphan, we go back to the orphan. Yeah, Abu Hanifa here says the zakat of the orphan, there is no zakat on him. He doesn't have to pay zakat. And there are different opinions about this, whether someone who is not the adult pays zakat or not. They say he is not adult. There is no obligation on him. The pen is lifted
on
the child until he becomes an adult.
Yeah.
Those who say oppose this say yeah, the pen is lifted, meaning there is no sin written on him. If he doesn't pray, there is no sin if he doesn't pray. There is no, you understand? They say, but it is not, so if he doesn't pay zakat, it's not a problem. But they say, no, that is not his duty. Taking the zakat is the duty of the leader. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the order, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, take from their property. صَدَقَةً تُطَهِّرُهُمْ وَتُزَكِّيهِمْ بِهَا, take from their property sadaqah, charity, to cleanse them with it. So they say, it is not his duty, it is not sin on him that he doesn't pay zakat, but it is an obligation on the leader to take it from him. But then they can say as well,
we don't have a leader now. We don't have a leader now.
Where there is no leader, we are not talking about now, we are talking in general. I mean,
yeah, but now we don't pay zakat.
No, it is an obligation on everybody to pay zakat, whether the leader takes it from him or not. You understand? But where there is no leader to take it, I mean, you give it away. If the zakat, if the leader comes to take it, then ask for it, then you have to give it to him. If he doesn't, then you have to pay it. It's an obligation on you. But then, here, it's only for the child. You understand? The child, we say, if he doesn't pay, he is not a sinner. But there are people acting on his behalf. Always a child has people looking after him. I mean, if the child doesn't pay zakat and the day of judgment he didn't pay zakat, Allah will not ask him because he is a child. He doesn't know. You understand? But then it is upon the leader to do this. Where there is no leader, people should appoint a leader anyway, but they should, anything that is an obligation, people have to carry his duties. I mean, if there is no leader, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the Prophet says, أَطْعِمُ الْجَائِعِ فُكُّ الْعَانِ. There are many duties, like building a mosque is the duty of the leader, to build a mosque for the people, to pray, where there is a leader. Where there isn't, like people will say, oh, we don't pray Jama'ah because there is no leader.
The people who say this?
Huh?
The people who say this?
Well, there is today who don't say this. Yeah. There are some people that will, the takfiris, they say stuff like this. Okay? So, the child, but then the people who say the child doesn't pay zakat, they will say, okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, take from their wealth charity to cleanse them with it. Like the charity is to cleanse the person. You understand? And then they say, how the child is dirty, I mean what sin the child has committed, he is not a sinner anyway, he is clean. To cleanse him with. You understand? So they say, okay, to cleanse him from what? Now if you remember, when we were talking about the cleaning of the vessel where the dog has, he put his tongue.
He washed 7 times.
He washed it 7 times, but it says like this, طهور إناء أحدكم, the cleansing of the vessel of any of you when the dog put his tongue. So we say this is proof that this vessel is dirty. That is a proof. If he says طهور إناء أحدكم, the cleansing of the vessel of any of you, that means it was dirty. Now you cleanse it. But here when it says, so that was a proof that it is dirty. But is it necessary here for someone to be dirty? So Allah ordered us to cleanse him with? Not necessary. You can clean someone who is clean already. You can like wash someone who is clean. That is like
The Muslims are clean.
generally the Muslims are clean anyway. تطهرهم بها anyway. That you understand? This is something that debatable matters. The same thing with the insane. Exactly the same thing. The insane and the orphan is what goes for the insane. It goes for the child. Child is considered sufaha for a safih person. You understand? Child is considered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمْ. When talking about the children first, while talking about the children not to be given their property until they are adults, he said, وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمُ الَّتِي جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. Don't give the sufaha your property, meaning their property, which is your property. Yeah? You understand? Don't give it to them until, but feed them, clothe them, until they know what they are doing. Either the child gets older, because the child is safih, he doesn't know. You give him his money. He will go and you give him £1 billion, he go and buy PlayStation or something. You understand? So that is for the orphan and the insane. And the slaves. The slaves, there is two types of slaves. There is the slave, full slave, meaning he is owned, and there is the mukatib, what we call mukatib. Mukatib is different from slave. Mukatib is a slave who has reached an agreement with the master that he will buy himself. A slave goes to his master, he will say, I want to buy myself from you.
Okay.
So he make a contract with him. And he start paying him. Either one go or in installments. Like instead of staying as a slave for the rest of his life, and he is any money he earns, his master take it, he can ask to be freed. According this process of being freed, when he asks, is an order in Quran. وَالَّذِينَ يَبْتَغُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِمَّا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُكُمْ Surah An-Nur. And those who want kitaba from those that your right hand possess, فَكَاتِبُوهُم, then do the kitaba with them. إِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ فِيهِمْ خَيْرًا, if you know good in them. Now, if he is a Muslim, then definitely there is good in him. If he is a kafir, probably you say, okay, he is going towards being a Muslim, maybe this is a good thing. You understand? But if, for Muslim, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, it didn't say if they are very good or something. If there is good in them, every Muslim there is good in him. So it is an obligation to free. That is according to the Zahiris. The majority say it's not an obligation, it's the choice of the master. If he won't accept to do kitaba with him or not. You have to, because the Quran says فَكَاتِبُوهُم. It's an order. The Umar ibn Khattab, Anas ibn Malik, if you remember, you know about Muhammad ibn Sirin and Anas ibn Sirin. Their mother was the slave of Anas ibn Malik. And she wanted to be freed. And Umar ibn Khattab.
This when Anas ibn Malik was servant of the Prophet? Was it the same time when Anas was servant of the Prophet?
No. Later, after the death of the Prophet. And Umar ibn Khattab forced him to do so. He refused.
He was the leader then?
Yes, Umar ibn Khattab was
applying the ayah.
Huh?
He was applying the ayah.
Was applying the ayah. Anyway, that is different. Just to understand what Mukatib. Mukatib, when he has agreed, it comes in the hadith that Barira, a slave girl, she was owned by some people, and then she reached an agreement with them that she will be freed. she came to Aisha asking for help to pay the installments. Aisha said, if you want, I can buy you from them and free you. And then she asked the Prophet. The people said, yeah, we will free her with a condition that her wala will be for us. Meaning when she is fully freed, when someone frees someone, he is part of his family. He's like from the family now. He is like part of the family. So he says, but her wala will be for us. You free her, her wala will be
so for our family.
For their family. Even though Aisha will buy her and free her, but they will take the... So the Prophet didn't agree about this. The hadith is very famous. It's in Bukhari in many places. So the person, when he has reached the agreement, while he is paying, he is called mukatib. And according to people, you see, he might have paid half of his price. So some people consider him to be half slave, half free. You understand? Or 10% slave. Some people consider him this. Some people, other people, many Sahaba consider him to be a slave until paid off altogether. You understand? So this is about the mukatib. Now, for the slave, for the full slave, the Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i say he must pay zakat. Malik say he doesn't have to. For the mukatib, Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i and Malik say don't have to pay zakat. Okay? Do they have proof? They don't have proof. Especially about the slave. For the mukatib there is hadith from Jabir, from Ibn Bazi', from Ibn Jurayj, from Abu Zubayr, from Jabir. This hadith is, Ibn Bazi' is munkar, the hadith. So his hadith that the mukatib shouldn't pay zakat. But the hadith is known to be the hadith of Jabir actually. Jabir said it as a Sahabi. He's saying, not the saying of the Prophet. So the slave actually, there is no proof that he shouldn't pay zakat. Neither a slave or mukatib. There is no proof except this, some Sahabi said or hadith da'if. So the slave and the mukatib, clearly he is a Muslim, he owns the property. The Malikis say he doesn't own the property. He is not fully owner. Since since his master can anytime come and take it, then he is not fully owner of the property.
Why is half?
No. Both of them, the slave or the mukatib. Okay. They say the slave, his property, you agree with us that the master can come anytime and take it. So that means he is not really an owner, proper owner. And that doesn't make sense. It's either he is owner or he isn't. Until his master come and take the property, he is an owner. You understand? Because if he is not an owner, and then he goes and buys slave, and he had anything to do with her, that means he has committed adultery, fornication, zina, because you say he is not owner of this slave. It's halal for him only if he is the owner. If the slave buys a slave with his property, then she is only halal for him if he is an owner. But they say he is not full owner now. But they say she is halal for him. You understand? If the slave take his money and go and buy food and eat, they don't say he has done something haram. They say, okay, he can take that food and eat it, spend his money the way he like, until his master take it. Okay, and he must pay the zakat as well until his master take the money. So that has no proof. For the slave is clearly, they are clearly wrong. Some people, they say like this: the zakat is not on the person, it's on the property. You understand? Those who, for example, try to argue about the slave and the child and the orphan to pay the zakat. 4. Those who say the slave has to. Sometimes they put it this way, because the others say the zakat is on the person. That's why they say if this person is not baligh or he is insane, then the pen is lifted, therefore there is no obligation on them, and therefore they don't have to.
Okay, yeah.
But the others, they say the zakat is on the property rather than on the person. And there is no zakat on the property. The property will not go to hellfire because the land, okay, this punish the land because it doesn't give the zakat. You understand? There is no such thing as, doesn't make sense. Some of them try to argue in a different way. They say this is the zakat is like when you buy a child buys something. If there is an executive person, there is like a child, he has a guardian. If he buy for the child something, he must pay for it from the property of the child. They say this is something like that. You understand? That is kind of qiyas. Huh? I'm not saying that it's wrong to say the orphan should pay zakat. Or it's no, I'm just saying these people, the way they are arguing, that is not an argument. You understand? The other thing is about the orphan. Well, these still there is. They say they have proof as well. Some people use this hadith to say about the orphan paying zakat. The hadith of Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As in Tirmidhi, that the Prophet said, "Ibtaghu fi amwal al-yatama," like invest the property of the orphan, so it's not taken by the zakah. It's not finished by the zakah. You see, if you have property, you just put it, you don't invest it, and every year you give 2.5%. At some point, a lot of this money will go away. It's gone, and then the property is the children will not have will lose a lot of money. So this hadith is not sahih. This hadith is the narration of Al-Muthanna ibn Sabbah. Muthanna ibn Sabbah is very weak, still from Amr ibn Shu'ayb, from his father, from his grandfather. So it's not one problem, it's two problems. And it comes from Ibn Jurayj, from Yusuf ibn Mahak, from the Prophet. This is Ibn Jurayj Mudallis, and Yusuf ibn Mahak is not Sahabi, so it's two problems as well. It's mursal here. And then it comes from other hadith. The most likely is that Umar ibn Khattab said it. There is isnad in Ibn Abi Shayba that Umar ibn Khattab said this. It's not sahih, but it's not the saying of the Prophet, so it still takes us to the same thing where Umar ibn Khattab can be discussed. What is his proof? You understand? I am not saying that he is right or wrong or something, but I am just saying that the proofs that we have clear proofs from Quran for everything, but it's not probably something that is like clear as pray. It's an obligation to pray. It's finished. Understand? Or give zakat. It's an obligation to give zakat. But how, the details, it's a bit complicated. Okay. And the Ahl al-Dhimma, the people who are like Christians or Jewish paying the jizya. Do they have to pay zakat? Of course they don't have to pay zakat. They are dhimmis, they are not Muslims, they don't take zakat. The zakat is for the Muslims, to cleanse them. The Christians, and it won't cleanse them anyway. Here it says Arab Christians of Banu Taghlib, apparently Umar ibn Khattab took zakat from them. Yeah, there is many hadith. This is the opinion of Shafi'i and Abu Hanifa.
You take from the Jews and Christians?
They say that Banu Taghlib, you don't take jizya from them. They are Christian. They were Christian. They don't exist anymore, I think, Banu Taghlib. They used to be in Arab Peninsula. And they say we take the jizya from them. There is a hadith. There is no hadith from the Prophet that he did it. I mean, any hadith from the Prophet is clearly made up. But there is hadith da'if from Umar ibn Khattab that he took jizya from them. Like Banu Taghlib are Arabs. And then Umar ibn Khattab, at the time when he was fighting, Banu Taghlib were living in the middle of the Arab Peninsula. Yeah, the Banu Taghlib, they live in just in the, not in Hijaz, they live in Najd. Now, these people, Arabs are known to be like of their pride. So they say that Umar ibn Khattab was advised not to take jizya from them, because trying to take jizya from them, they will not do it, they will fight. So at this advice, he took the double of the zakat rather than one zakat. He will take rather than the quarter of the 10th, he will take 2.5%, he will take 5%. You understand?
For jizya?
No, it's not for jizya, just zakat, double zakat rather than jizya, because they will not give jizya, because they are pride, they have pride. And this is clearly against the Quran. Quran insists that they have to pay it with humility. You understand? If they don't, without humility, paying the whole property 100% without humility, I mean the jizya, there is no percentage. You understand? It's up to the leader to decide how much. They have to agree, make agreement with the Muslims when they are about. It's up to the Muslims to see what they can afford to do. Is it right to push them to the limit, or is it very sensitive area here at a time when, or is it better to make it easy with them? We don't want any trouble, because if you push it too much, they might refuse and start fight and stuff. You understand? So, of course, with looking at from the humanitarian ground as well, that they are human beings. If you have to take from them property, you have to leave them for them enough to be able to feed the children, not to torture them really. So this is important as well. So taking that 5%, you can still take 10% actually with humility. But humility is a necessity here, it's an obligation. It's condition. And this hadith here, despite coming from very different hadith, from Saffah ibn al-Muthanna, I think, from Musaffah ibn something, sometimes he is called sometimes names, I don't, from al-Nu'man ibn Zur'a ibn al-Nu'man, even this person when he narrates the hadith, from ibn Wardan, every time he comes with names, different names. You understand? Well, that's what we call hadith muttarib. The hadith is muttarib, is not clear. Anyone from Bani Taghlib, even he being a Muslim, might have made up this hadith. It's not impossible. I mean, people still incline about saying, oh, my tribe, look, my tribe, even when they were kafir, they didn't pay jizya. People have these problems, trying to make their tribe to be. So we don't know that Umar ibn Khattab did it. If Umar ibn Khattab did it, it's definitely a clear mistake. They have to pay jizya. There is no zakat for a kafir. And when we don't even have hadith da'if for this. Okay. Ali ibn Umar, Jabir, Aisha, Malik, Shafi'i, and Thawri all say there is zakat on the wealth of the minors. Are they correct? Well, I said why they say that. The Bahiri said that as well. Abu Hanifa said there is zakat on the money or only on the land, not on everything. Is zakat like a ritual or it is a right of the poor over the rich? The zakat is an obligation. Is zakat, is ibadah. It's like an obligation to pay zakat. And it is the property, then when you give the zakat, the property is a right of the poor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ. In their property, in their wealth, there is haqq, a right, known, حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ. لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. For the sa'il, for the beggar, and the needy, the one who doesn't have enough, the deprived. So it is an obligation on a person, and the zakat is an obligation on the person. Whatever comes out of this property, that is the right of other people. If the person doesn't give it, the people who he is supposed to go to, as long as these poor people know that this person still own it, they can go and collect it, take it by force, fight for it, it's up to them. Or where there is a leader, of course he must fight for it. Even if the people who need it are not present in that time, are not known. I mean, if you are a place where everybody has enough money, you still have to pay zakat. You understand? They don't, meaning now the person who needs this property don't exist. There is a hadith where the Prophet said that a man will walk with his gold, looking for someone to accept it, and nobody will accept it.
In the end of times?
Yeah, at one point. We don't think that it happened yet. But this is now, in this state, in this time, still, because zakat doesn't go to kafirs, except mu'allafati qulubuhum, some that you can bring to Islam. You think that they incline towards Islam. But even if they don't exist, the people who take zakat don't exist anymore, you still have, the leader have to take this zakat and keep it. Store it, yeah. Take it in the Bayt al-Mal. Yeah, even if because it's an obligation. It's not only the haqq of the sa'il al-mahrum, because sa'il al-mahrum doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't mean that you don't give the zakat. Okay. I think zakat like a ritual or right for the rich. Finish. I think if I go through this, what time is it?
6:05.
Yeah, I think we'll stop. Bismillah. Some say there is zakat on the yield. What is yield?
The harvest.
Okay, from the land. But there is no zakat on what is beside this, like cattle, liquid assets, goods, etc. Is that correct? Well, I don't know of anybody who says there is no zakat on cattle. If you mean the camels, cows and sheep. I don't know anyone who says, actually in the books that speaks about ijma', it has been said that this is ijma', that zakat should be given for gold, silver, wheat, barley, dates, sheep, cows and camels. It has been said that this is ijma'. People claim that this is ijma'. So here I don't know where you got it from. It is Ibn Hazm who says, and the Zahiris, some Zahiris, not all of them, and some others who say that zakat is only that the 8 things that I mentioned. But I don't know of anyone saying less than these 8 things. That dates, barley, cattle, but other than this, the others differ. Everybody else except Ibn Hazm and some Zahiris say that the zakat should be the 8 things plus, and then they all differ in these extra things. But what you are saying here, I don't know. What do you read it?
You've been rushed. I don't know why.
No zakat in the cattle. You have to know who said it. I don't remember this from anywhere. Okay, when land is on rent, of course we will go into details probably later about this. I mean, why the zakat on these 8 things and what is the... When land is on rent, who is liable to pay the zakat? The one renting or the owner of the land? In my madhab, the land should never be rented. It's haram to rent the land. Do you want to know the dalil or we just pass it?
The little bit. I think Imam Shafi
Anyway.
against the hadith. I think Imam Shafi violated the hadith, yeah?
What's the hadith?
What's it called? When you have land, it should be a percentage of... You should pay a percentage. But you shouldn't...
Of what you cultivate. Not really. This is how it works. They said, we have the hadith of Rafi' ibn Khadij from his uncle Zuhair. He says that the Prophet stopped us from something that was very useful for us. He came and they used to rent the land for like whatever comes out of it or anything like for grass, dry grass, and he says he stopped them from doing that. There is that hadith, the hadith of Jabir, whoever has land, he should either cultivate it or give it to be cultivated. If he refuses, if he refuses, he should keep his land. So he didn't give an alternative. Either he does it himself or give it to someone to do it. That is not rent. And the hadith of Abi Huraira, which is clearer probably, the hadith, we have hadith of Abi Huraira as well. The hadith says, whoever has a land, he should cultivate it or give it away to be used. Not to give it away yamnaha, meaning give it for a certain period for the person to use it and then give it back. If he refuses, if he doesn't want to, he should keep his land. So there is no alternatives here. There is the hadith of Ibn Mas'ud, Ibn Abbas contradicting this. He said the Prophet didn't forbid the rent of the land. He just said if someone gives land to his brother is better than taking something out of it for it, like as a rent. This hadith Ibn Abbas really heard it from the Prophet. We don't know where he got it from. If he really heard it from the Prophet directly, because after the hadith of Rafi' ibn Khadij, it says that the Prophet said this when he came to Medina. It looks like maybe it is when he came to Medina straight away. I mean, in the first days. If that's what happened, then Ibn Abbas, what he said doesn't contradict what Rafi' ibn Khadij said. However, it looks like Even Ibn Abbas should have heard this hadith from someone. Like from at the beginning, the Prophet advised them, it's better not to take anything. And then the hadith of Jabir and Abi Huraira is clear that he should either do it himself or give it away for free. That is what we call maniha, yamnaha. Like the hadith when the Prophet says, Aisha says, the people who used to go to the Jum'ah and not take a bath and be smelled because they work for themselves. And then the Prophet said, why don't you take a bath for this day? Why don't you take ghusl for this day? And then we have the hadith that says the ghusl is wajib, or we have the hadith. We say, yeah, there is no problem that the Prophet sees something and he hates it and he advises, and then later it becomes an obligation. This is how we deal with hadith. The first hadith doesn't contradict what we call ma'hud al-asl. Ma'hud al-asl is the normal thing, though. And then this is extra sharia. What he says, an obligation, when it becomes obligation, this should be wahy. The first thing can just be advice, something he saw it doesn't work, and so he might have at the beginning seen something. Even in Bukhari, if you look, later Ibn Sa'd, when he speaks about this hadith, he said, whoever, like a wise person, could understand when he looks at the hadith, he can see that there is something wrong about renting the land. Now we don't care about what Ibn Sa'd really say, because he doesn't really say. I mean, it's not a question of how we don't care. But I mean, we look at it, except that I will not take it as proof, because he says that the land should be rented, except in some cases. Now there is another hadith in Bukhari as well, that hadith, the Prophet, when he said that the land should be rented, is because they used to give land, and a person will say, this part is for me and that part is for you. You understand? They say, this is why the Prophet, so this part here might do well, and the other part there is nothing in it. So they said, this is why the Prophet, this is definitely haram as well. Even the person might cultivate this one well and doesn't care about the other one. You understand? There is a hadith of Ibn Umar, where Ibn Umar, he heard the hadith of Rabi' ibn Khadij. He told him that the Prophet have stopped us from renting the land. Where Ibn Umar said, we used to do it all the time, like at the time of the Prophet. But Nafi' says, later Ibn Umar thought about it. He thought, okay, maybe the Prophet came with a new hukm and he left it. That shows that Ibn Umar had the same madhab, like the madhab that I follow, that an action of the Prophet saying something and not saying anything, like looking at seeing something, not saying anything about it, and then where the Prophet says something, we should take what he said as to be the last thing, and take it and forget about what he has seen and didn't speak about it. This is really the hadith about there is the people who say that you can rent the land. They use the hadith of the Khaybar, that the Prophet, when he took the land of Khaybar, this hadith is also in Bukhari, that from Umar, that the Prophet, when he took the land of Khaybar, he gave it to the Jewish. The Jewish said, rather than being driven away of Khaybar, they said, you should give us the land. If you give us the land, we will work it, and you have half of it. This agreement between the Prophet and the Jewish, we don't know exactly how it was. The Prophet having, well, the land of Khaybar, it is the Prophet's land and the Sahaba. How did he give it to the Jewish? How did it work? You can't take hukum from something like this. Huh? Were they using, because when there is one way, we don't know if it's exception because it's for the kafirs. You understand? He was dealing with kafirs. We don't know how exactly he did it. A person can, the hadith of Jabir and the hadith of Abu Huraira that forbid a person from giving away his land except as a gift for some time, or give it as a gift together, or keep it with him, then this hadith forbid any other transaction on the land. Doesn't stop someone from getting people to work in his land. He doesn't have to do it with his hands. But there will be conditions in here. They can use their tools, but their tools should be rented because they are working. So it's different from when they are working, they have to be paid. The payment, only the payment about half of what it is cultivated, that should be also be a problem here, because when someone works for you, you have to pay him something known. You have to agree with him with the price. It's not half of the land. You understand? This is not our matter here. I'm just giving you why I say the land should be rented. So the land really should not be rented. Yeah, the land really shouldn't be rented. And if the land has been rented, which is I consider it to be batil, there is no zakat on the land. Understand? This land, this is an agreement that probably, I don't think that there is anyone who says that you have to give zakat on the land, except if the land you are buying and selling land. Then there is many who says that you have to pay zakat, because this is something that is prepared for business. We call it urud tijara. You understand? The zakat is on what comes out of the land, not on the land.
Okay.
You understand? Yeah. Zakat, the Prophet said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي أَنْشَأَ جَنَّاتٍ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ وَغَيْرَ مَعْرُوشَاتٍ. He is the one who created these gardens. Ma'rushat, I will not be able to explain the word. It's very difficult in English. I can't think of any word. Ma'rushat, like arish, from arish, something that goes up, something that is on the وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفٍ أُكُلُهُ, and the palm dates and the zar'a, the crops, different in color. وَالنَّخْلَ وَالزَّرْعَ مُخْتَلِفٍ أُكُلُهُ وَالزَّيْتُونَ وَالرُّمَّانِ, and the olives and the rumman pomegranates. وَالزَّيْتُونَ وَالرُّمَّانَ مُخْتَلِفٍ أُكُلُهُ, different in eating. كُلُوا مِنْ ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ, eat from the fruits when they are ready. وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ, and give its due right the day when it is harvested. Now this ayah, the majority, many use it to say this is the zakat, and many say this is not the zakat. This ayah was revealed in Mecca, in Surah Al-An'am. You can never say where an ayah is revealed exactly. You can say approximately this surah is the last surah, or you understand? We know Surah Bara'ah, for example, definitely it will be the last surah. It speaks about Tabuk, about things that has happened. but it doesn't mean that every ayah in Bara'ah was in the same time. Ayat come different times. Maybe everybody agrees that some surahs were revealed in Mecca and completed in Medina. So we don't know this ayah exactly when it was revealed. And if it was revealed, yes, then it was atu haqqahu at the beginning, just to give something, or probably there was a specific amount to give. And this later is the same ayah of zakat, haqqahu yawma hasadih, and then the zakat later explained what is this right. It's like Surah Al-Hajj. The majority agree that it was revealed in Mecca. The order of Hajj, some people, even Shafi'i, say it was revealed before the 6th year, and the Prophet went only on the 10th year. So, but that is exact. Like the order was not there to go to Hajj, and then, or it was there, but he was not able to do the Hajj, and then he went to Hajj. And we know that he only explained Hajj exactly the way it is, we understand it now, when he went to Hajj. خُذُوا عَنِّي مَنَاسِكَكُمْ. So
imagine I've got some land, and I'm not using it, but it's worth about 50 grand. I don't have to pay no zakat.
If it's not for business, then the majority will say you don't have to pay zakat for it.
Okay. But what's it called? Imagine I've got some land, £50,000 worth. Acres, and I'm growing something.
Whatever comes from the land.
Some trees.
Yeah.
Like imagine when I sell it for timber, I make £90,000.
You see, there is different.
How much do I pay?
There is different. There is different of what about the zakat of the land. About what comes out of the land. So much difference that you find the books of fiqh dealing with it like you can pay on this but you don't pay for this, you pay for this but you don't pay for this. Like they will mention food and vegetables and fruits one by one. You pay for mangoes, you don't pay for guava, you pay for this, you don't pay for this. There is a Shafi'i and some Zahiris, Abu Hanifa or some Zahiris. Abu Hanifa made some exceptions, like the cane,
sugar cane.
Not sugar ones, the one that are useless in the river.
Oh, yeah. The ones.
Yeah, like stuff like this. They say you don't have to pay zakat. But the way I see it, the ayah, the Quran says, "Atu haqqahu yawma hasadih." Abu Hanifa said like this: if someone cultivates a flower, if someone has flower in his house, or he has grass that comes just like this, you have to pay zakat from it. And that is the saying as well of Dawud al-Zahiri. Ibn Hazm answered by saying the ayah that says give the rights on the day of harvesting is not general, and because it was revealed in Mecca, and then says the Prophet said there is no zakat, there is no. The Prophet says this way, the hadith, ليس فيما دون, there is no in دون خمسة أوسق, 5 وسق is a measurement thing, من تمر صدقة. There is no فيما دون. Now دون, this word دون means less than, but also means other than. So he says we have to take the word with both two meanings. So we say there is no zakat in less than 5 awsuq from dates, and there is no zakat in other than 5 awsuq from dates, and there is no zakat in less than 5 awsuq of wheat, and there is no zakat in other than, and then barley. So this is what from the things that comes from the land, these three things are mentioned. So Ibn Hazm here says duna here means other than. So we are not going to take from other than these three things anything. That is clearly wrong. Because when we hear the Prophet saying there is no zakat in less than 5 awsuq from dates, this is exactly what we have to believe, exactly that Ibn Hazm has believed, that less than and other than. But as soon as he says, and there is no zakat in other than, in less than, we know now that other than doesn't exist anymore, because there is other than dates, or he already mentioned it.
Yeah.
So that is, other than is finished now, the meaning shouldn't be taken. So there is zakat in everything that comes from the land. How we do it? If it's dates, wheat, barley, then less than 5 awsuq we don't pay. These three things.
Okay.
Other than these three things, have 5 awsuqs.
Yeah, what's 5 awsuqs?
Wasq is a measurement thingy. It's considered to be about 315 kilos or something.
Kg?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5 will be 15, yeah? Sorry, 300 kg, yeah?
Yeah, 5 awsuq.
So that's 1.5 ton.
No.
300 kg. And then there's 5. So that's 1,000.
No. The wasq.
Yeah.
The 5 awsuq is 315 kgs.
Kg.
Yeah. And the 5 awsuq is 315 kgs.
Oh, 5 awsuq.
Yeah.
Oh, 5 all.
300.
Okay, 5. Yeah.
Now what the 315? Now the Prophet, this hadith said in these three things, you shouldn't. Actually, this comes from the zakat. Why are we discussing it now? This when you are going into the details of zakat.
Okay.
So anyway, some people say that you pay in everything. Some people say not. We will discuss this later.
As it comes,
Is the zakat duty related to the land or the crop? The zakat of the land is related to the crop, of course, because there is no mentioning of the land here. The land, if it's for business, then some people will say you pay zakat for the business. For the business, not for the land, because you are doing business, and then they will not. There is no thing to say if you have a hectare of land, you have to give the 10th or something. So they will put it. The zakat of business is considered by money, gold, how much is worth of gold, and then they will pay gold. This is how they do it. For those who say it, of course, I don't say that I agree about that, but could you explain the difference between what is ushr and land and kharaj? The ushr is what you pay from the crops. Yeah? Because now this ushr then by qiyas has been used widely. Yeah? Like they say this is the land of ushr, meaning the zakat, and the land of kharaj. What is kharaj is? Kharaj is something that Umar ibn Khattab introduced. The Prophet, when he used to invade a place and take it by force, he used to divide it between the Sahaba, the people. Abu Huraira said, hadith in Bukhari, we invaded Khaybar. We didn't take ghanima, anything like gold or silver. It was land and crops and cattle. So the land was ghanima, and the Prophet divided it between the Sahaba, because there is a hadith from Umar ibn Khattab. He said, if it wasn't for the lust of the Muslims, like he was thinking about the Muslims, then any land that we capture, I should divide it between Muslims. the Prophet thinks about the Muslims better than Umar ibn Khattab, and he divided Khaybar. He didn't care. Now Umar ibn Khattab, when he saw that they took Iraq, they took Persia in his time, and that is from the army. A few Muslims took all this land. Now dividing in this land between these people, and okay, he thought that this will continue just like this, and they are going to take the world. Huh? And the world will be in the hands of that army. Like, you understand? Like everybody will take. Okay, they will take Asia, they will take Europe, and they will take everything. And then what is left for the others? You understand? So this is how he counted it. So what he did, of course, he then probably if he followed what the Prophet did, people sometimes fight, for the religion, but to know that they are going to take these things, it helps their moral. Or maybe they will say, okay, we have enough, and then they will go aside, and then some other people come and fight and take the rest. The thing is, you should just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the ghanima for those who fight. Of course, when you go to a land, when you capture a land, you capture what people owned. You don't divide Iraq. You divide because Iraq doesn't belong to anybody. The mountains of Iraq, the sea in Iraq, the river in Iraq doesn't belong to anybody. So people are not going to take it as war booty. You understand? They are going to take the land that is already possessed by someone. They are going to take the houses. You understand? But the roads, the mountains, the desert, the land that has never been owned by anybody, they can't take it. This is you understand? What was there, free for anybody, the first to go to take, it's his. So that's what Umar ibn Khattab should have done. What he has done, rather than that, when he like captures a place, he will leave it with its own people. And he will make them pay kharaj rather than zakat. As long as they are kafir, they will have to pay kharaj, which is a percentage of money agreed between the Muslims and them. If they become Muslim, then he will just give them, make it instead of kharaj, zakat. That is and it looks from a hadith that Umar ibn Khattab actually used to do this with the agreement of the people, and there is nothing wrong with that. If he agrees with the people, there is nothing wrong with that. I mean, the Prophet, when he took Hunayn, Awtas, the people of Awtas, when the Hawazin, the tribe of Hawazin, they came to the Prophet after they were defeated, and the Prophet took their wives, their women, their children, their property. They came, and he didn't divide this war booty. He waited for them to come. They came and they became Muslim, and they wanted back their property. He said, you choose between the property or the women and children. They said, we choose our women and children. So he asked Sahaba and asked them to forgive, like to give their share. It is their right because they fought for it. So he asked for their permission first. And if they want, they say, we give it away. That is fine. Same thing, it's clear that Umar ibn Khattab, Bajila, the tribe of Abdullah al-Bajali, Jarir bin Abdullah al-Bajali. Jarir was their leader. It's well known, Jarir bin Abdullah al-Bajali, Sahabi. He and his tribe were the quarter of the army who fought this what we call today Iraq. And when they won, Umar Khattab really wanted them badly to help. He needed their help. and they were almost a quarter of the army. So when they won and they got their share, it was too much land. Umar ibn Khattab begged them not to take it, to leave it, not to take it as, you understand? It's clearly because there is a hadith in a hadith where Umar ibn Khattab talked to this woman, Kurz al-Bajaliya, and he said, your tribe all agreed. Why don't you agree? And he was begging a single woman who refused to give her share. She said, I am not going to agree until you give me a camel and you fill my hand with gold. So he filled her hand with gold and he gave her the camel and she left. You know, an old woman or whatever, maybe she doesn't understand what's the difference between a land and, or maybe her share there was not that big or whatever. So, yes, so it is with agreement Umar Khattab did it, but many fuqaha say, like there are many fuqaha who take that as a religion and that the kharaj should be, the land should not be divided. That is the story of kharaj. Okay, owner of wealth. What happens if someone set aside zakat money then loses it? Is he liable to pay it still? According to Abu Hanifa, if someone has zakat to pay and something happens, he shouldn't pay. According to Ibn Hazm, if someone has zakat to pay, but he loses it, then it's a loan on him. He must pay it. His proof for that is that if a person has zakat to pay, he cultivated land, he has some wheat or dates, or he has camels, or he has sheep, then he doesn't have to pay zakat from it. He can go and buy different, he has dates, he can go and buy other dates and give it away. To the point where he says, if someone has bad dates, he can go and buy good dates and give them in zakat. That is understandable. But he says, if someone has good dates, he can go and buy bad dates and give them as zakat. You understand? Because if he says this is not good, not right, he will be stuck. What is your proof? Why do you say it's fine to give better, but it's not fine to give less? He say, we have this ayah in the Quran that says, وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثَ مِنْهِ. Don't look for the bad of your wealth and give it away. So he says this. This is weird, of course. Now with the zakat, the majority says, yeah, the zakat can be given anyway. Like, you have dates, as long as the same quality, you can get the same quality from the market and give it away. No, the zakat must be given exactly from what comes from the land. That is where, that is how the hadith say, لَيْسَ فِي مَا دُونَ خَمْسَةِ أَوْسُقٍ. It's in it, in this 5 awsuq, from it, that you have to give the zakat, not...
But how much do you give from it?
Well, it depends on, like, in the zakat of the land, in the dates, or the barley, or the wheat, then you give the 10th.
Oh, you give the 10th?
Yeah, if you have not used the water yourself, like if it's the rain, it has been, you understand? But whatever you
produce.
No. It needs water, the land, no?
Yeah.
Irrigation, yeah. No, not irrigation. The water.
Watering.
Yeah, watering. If you water it with a hose pipe or with a well, then you give half of the 10th.
Okay.
Okay. But if you do it, if you don't do any put any water in it, just with the rain, then you give it the 10th. How did we come here? Did you stop me from? I was talking about something else. Yeah, liability for the zakat.
Yeah.
Now, Ibn Hazm, of course, here someone might say, but the Prophet said, like in camels, if you have 5 camels, you pay a sheep. You give a sheep away, not one of the 5 camels. Until they are 25, then you start giving camels. So, yeah, it's fine. If you have, this is a hadith here, clear, that you give a sheep from the camels. If you have camels, and you give away a sheep, if you have a sheep. If you don't, then you go and buy it or pay money instead. Or, understand? To the musaddiq, and he will buy sheep on your behalf or whatever. But because we have dalil for that. But other than that, you have to pay zakat exactly from what you have cultivated. Whether you can't buy a better thing. If you want to buy a better thing, yeah, an extra. After the zakat, you have to pay the zakat. Or even less. You have to pay the zakat from the middle of what you have got. Let's say you have good and you have bad and you have in the middle, you pay from the middle, general. Or you pay, you see the 10th of the good, the 10th of the middle, or the 10th of the bad. The other thing is liability, yeah. A person, if he has amana, there is ways. Someone gave you amana. That amana, if you lose it, for no mistake of yours, I mean, you just put it there and something happened to it, probably with your own money, with your own, you were looking for it, you were looking after it, well, nothing you have done wrong, so why do you have to pay? Someone gave you amana to keep for him. It's not a loan to help you or something, no. His amana, you are looking after it for him. And you pay him for losing it. There was an accident that you didn't do anything to. No, you don't pay. You have done nothing and there is nothing to say that you have to pay. Your property is forbidden for him. His property is lost. It was an accident. Something happened to him. Qadar from Allah. There is no way that he can take anything from it. Now this zakat is the property of masakin. If this Muslim here, the leader has sent the people to take it late, they never come, and he was actually taking the burden of looking after it, and then something happened to it. Why should he pay? Finish, it's gone. He doesn't have to pay. It's an amana, property that doesn't belong to him. However, if he delays it, even a day before, after it is due, intentionally, without, he could have taken it out, but he chose not to, then he will be liable, of course, because he was keeping something that he shouldn't keep anyway. Other than that, no, he doesn't have to pay anything. He's not liable. If it was lost, it was lost. And if it's known, of course, if it's known. Now, someone has a lot of zakat, a lot of crops. Someone has 20 ton, or 100 ton, 10 tons here, 10 tons here, 10 tons here, and then 10 tons, which is normally due from 1,000. From 100 ton is 10 ton you have to give away. So 10 ton is lost, and he say, this is the zakat. No, unless he prepared it as to be the zakat and kept it in place, then it will be the zakat, and then it's gone. But if it was like that, and then he chooses now, this is the zakat, well, that is not the zakat. Yes, this is how it. This is how there is no liability because there is no proof for that. As long as the person has not done anything wrong, then he is not liable for the zakat.
Yeah, I understand everything roughly about the land now, and cattle. Because there's that famous hadith that Abu Bakr narrated, about if you've got 20 camels or something.
Yeah, about if you have 5, 25, 35, yeah.
Yeah. I understand about land you give like a tenth.
Of
By the way,
comes.
where's the hadith for the tenth? Or the evidence for the tenth?
In Bukhari, whatever the land has, whatever the sky have watered, then there is the tenth. وَمَا سُقِيَ بِالثَّانِيَةِ, whatever has been watered from the well, like by hand, أو كان عثريا, whatever has been, it will be half of the tenth.
Half, a 20th then.
Yeah.
1 out of 20.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what's it called? What was I going to say? So I understand all of that, yeah?
Yeah.
But maybe this will come later.
Yeah, okay.
When it comes to cars and TVs and...
This is not. I don't think anyone will say. They will say anything that you have in the house, you don't pay zakat for it.
What about gold that just sits there and does?
No, the gold. There is different opinions. If it's.
That's another area.
Yeah, the gold. If it's, they have different opinions. Like the Hanbalis, for example, they say whether a woman is wearing it or it's for business, or she buys it like to deal with it in business, or it's still, you have to pay zakat. The others, they contradict them, and they say gold is to be zakat paid only if it's for business.
Okay,
it's like
forget gold a minute, yeah. TV.
It's not for business. If it's to, like, you buy it for the future or whatever, you understand? It's not like when you buy it for TV. I don't think anybody will say, because they will do qiyas on the slave, the horse. The Prophet hadith said that there is no sadaqah on the slave that you, like your slave that you use at home, not the one that you buy. They say for the one that is bought to be for business, sold again, that one you should pay zakat on him.
Okay.
And the horse that you use as well, not the one.
Okay, so a guy who goes to work, and he just earns enough to pay the bills. He's got a television, he's got a car, he's got a garden.
No, they don't say you have to pay zakat on this.
So he don't. So
they say you pay zakat on the money that you earn, and then you keep an account for a year continuously. This is the money that they say you have to pay for. Or if you have cars that you buy and sell, at the time of zakat, you count how much they are worth and you pay zakat. If you have TVs to buy and sell, or you have houses to buy and sell, at the time of zakat, you count all how much they are and then you pay zakat. But not for your house that you live in, or the house that you go for holiday to, or the land that you just cultivate at home to eat from it. Of course, what is cultivated, then they say, some of them say you have to pay zakat for it.
Okay. And that 2.5% comes in for the houses?
No, the 2.5% is for the gold and the silver, and therefore anything that is ready for business is for business. They say, because we don't have we don't have any hadith that says how much you have to pay for cars, for houses, for land, that are for business. They say this is business, so it is gold. Business, things that what you sell for gold and silver. So they say we will see how much it's worth of gold and say it as a gold.
Is that right?
Well, I don't think that there is zakat. I am more inclined towards what Ibn Hazm says, that zakat is, with some differences, that zakat is paid on the land, not on the land, on the camels, on the sheep, on the crops, anything that comes from the land. The way Abu Hanifa says that would except with difference, because they say if you got flour you have to pay zakat on it. No, not a flower. Actually, if you have a land and you have something coming out of it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, آتُ حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ, the day of its harvest. I mean, if you have a land, 1 hour, one flower, you don't harvest it. Huh? Even if you have big land, you can eat from it every day until the day of harvesting comes. That day, you will count how much you have harvested and you pay. What you have been eating regularly before it is due to be harvested, you don't count it. Huh? And that land, whatever you get, small or too much, you don't wait until you have 5 awsaq. Even if it's less than 5 awsaq, you still have to pay zakat on it. And it will be, we use the hadith, the 10th, if it has been watered from the sky, or half of the 10th. You understand? And other than that, anything that there is no set from the Prophet, that means it's not meant to be zakat. You understand? And that is where the leader has, when there is necessity for the Muslims, he will just look how much the Muslims need money, and he will force everybody to pay, because they have to pay. Other than that, there is no zakat. Okay. He says the crops of fruit on which zakat was due, and similarly. Look, okay, so we have to do the honor of wealth, the ABCD today. Of course, you shouldn't even dream that you need to finish this whole page. What happens if someone sets aside zakat money, then loses it? Is he liable to pay it still? Why do you write it then? Why do you write it then? Yeah. When the setting aside of zakat is possible, but part of the wealth is destroyed before look, it's either my page or yours. Is this page from me, this paper from me, mine or yours?
Well, it's not for you to fold up and lose.
No. Is it mine or yours? Because if it's not mine, I can't read it.
Well, what about if it's on loan?
I don't take loans. It's a principle. I don't take it. It's mine, yeah?
I'll give it to you as a gift.
Gift?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we go to what happens when the setting aside of zakat is possible, but part of the wealth is destroyed before the setting aside. Explain to me more. What is this?
I think it's, I don't know, imagine the zakat collector's coming, it's Monday today, and he's coming on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And on Monday you lose some of your wealth.
Yes.
So you have to pay the zakat on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I think that's what
it is, if you, where it is permissible for you to take the zakat and say, this money is zakat, you have decided that this money is zakat, and you put it aside for someone to collect, and you have already decided. It goes both ways. You understand? If you lose the part that you have set aside for yourself, your share of the money, then you can't say, oh, I can't pay zakat, I don't have the nisab anymore, and go take part back the zakat. You understand? You have property, now it's time, it's due, the zakat is due, not before it is due, because before it is due, it's invalid. You can't even pay it before it is due. You have to pay it unless you are going to give it to someone and say, okay, I keep this money with you. And then you give the zakat, you distribute it. You can't even give it to the person who deserves it as a zakat. But it is amana with him for you. It becomes his property to spend or to use only when your zakat is due. Then you tell him, okay, now it's your money. Not before that.
So you can hand your zakat by yourself?
Yeah, you can hand zakat by yourself where there is no leader to collect it. The zakat is an obligation on the person, and the zakat is an obligation on the leader to collect. Where the leader is not there to collect it, then you pay it yourself. It's still a pillar of Islam that you pay zakat. It's not only to be collected, it's also to be paid. The only problem here is what for the people who say, and I don't say that I don't say that, for the people who say a crazy person or a child should pay zakat. Okay, there is no leader to collect it, to take it, to ask. Then who is going to pay it? The child? We know that he has no obligation. There is no obligations on him if he doesn't. You understand? But the zakat from from an adult person, free or slave, he is still a Muslim, an obligation on him to pay it, whether the leader is there to collect it or not. So he just have to pay it the way it is mentioned to be paid. Now, the setting aside of zakat, someone, his zakat, when it is due, we have to know when zakat is due. There is a lot of complications. Mostly zakat, people rely on ijma'. In zakat, all the zakat issues come from ijma' mostly. About a year, waiting for a year. Ijma' of the ulama. You understand? At the time of Umar bin Khattab, at the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq, from what we know from the hadith, people were still struggling to find a way, to find out how to collect zakat. This is what we know. Umar bin Abdul Aziz was asking the tabi'een, and they will ask and check, and we have seen, we have heard, we saw in the book of the Prophet, which a tabi'i saw in the book that the Prophet has written. Who told him that this is the book that the Prophet has written? And some hadith even come from liars, like Harith al-Awar. Harith al-Awar is considered to be, he has been accused of being a liar, and people do agree that if he is not a liar, those who don't describe him as to be a liar, they agree that he was untrustworthy in terms of memorizing hadith. He is not thiqa. And then he and other hadith from Amr ibn Shu'ayb, from his father, from his grandfather, who is also, even the trustworthy have narrated this hadith from him to be his saying rather than the saying of his grandfather from the Prophet. So things like this, these people will narrate a hadith, people will debate, is it sahih, isn't it sahih, you understand? And then some of them will take it, we will take it anyway. Those who say it's sahih will take it. Those who say it's not sahih, we will take it anyway because we don't have other option. This is the only thing we can find. And then suddenly, now it's ijma'. Because nobody else, the opinions of the other people, except from the four madahib, and it happens that the four madahib have decided to take this hadith, which is weak. Now, there is no other opinions. We have only the opinions of the four madahib. And Ibn Hazm, for example, the fifth madhab, comes and everybody before him said the same thing, and he is stuck. He can't find a solution. So, okay, let's take, that is ijma'. The ummah have agreed. So we take the ijma', and it became ijma', finish. You understand? This is mostly about the zakat. Many things is taken from ijma', which is wrong. There is no such thing as ijma'. We have spoken before about the proofs that ijma' is invalid in the life. So we either say this is the proof.
Muhammad said ijma', whoever says ijma' is from the liar, why do you take it?
Well, people say the hadith da'if is not to be taken, and then they take it. People say people get stuck sometimes. He doesn't know what to do. You understand? And then he say, okay, this is, people have been saying this, we take it. The majority is saying this, we take it. You understand? So it's not still not true, really. The introducer of ijma', Shafi'i, is the one who made ijma' official rule of religion. He is the one who, no one before him has used ijma' in a way like this is ijma'. Yeah, before Shafi'i, we don't know anybody who said ijma' is proof. It's not possible that Sahaba would have said that. No Sahabi could have said used ijma' as proof. You understand? That is because they have to die, all of them, for people to consider ijma'. I mean, as long as there is Sahabi alive, when the Sahaba say something, there is a possibility that one of them will he change his mind or will. And actually, why use ijma'? Use ijma' as a way, like debating or something, as proof. Now the Sahaba are debating something, and the majority of them, except one, say, "Oh, this is ijma'. You have to take it." He will say, "It's not ijma'. I don't agree with you." So we have to wait until they have all of them died, and then we say, "Okay, now this is the ijma' of the Sahaba." So the ijma' can't be a religion at the time of the Prophet, and it can't be a religion at the time of the Sahaba. It is a religion that comes hundreds years later. What kind of religion is this?
Very good argument.
So, this is, so the ijma' here in zakat, it has this issue of zakat has been it must be looked in a from different way. There is, of course, many issues that are not, you can't find them in hadith, like straightforward hadith, just clear. So either you find it in some hadith in a way which is something that is a general hadith, or if not, then this issue of zakat is not the main source of it is obligation to pay zakat, but where, from what? There are some things that you have to pay zakat, and it's clear how to pay zakat, like the zakat of the land. Someone, what from the field, from the crops. This is clear. You have so many hadith, it's clear in details. We have the hadith of Bukhari, of Anas bin Malik, provided that it is established that it is sahih, which is a possibility. Well, it's again a bit of looking at more in details. Then it deals with the zakat of the camels and the sheep in details as well. And we know how to pay zakat of silver from the hadith. You understand? These you can find it. You don't need ijma' or qiyas or anything. So you can't know. But the only problem is it will stay when to pay this zakat. How long you have to wait before pay zakat? Do you pay it? You understand? It will be a bit of problem how to pay the zakat, what time. And you might need to take it from a general hadith or something. Not the majority say a year. How did you come to this conclusion of a year?
So when you say every time of Ramadan?
This, it doesn't even, the hadith, actually we have hadith from Uthman bin Affan, from Sa'ib bin Yazid. He said Uthman bin Affan made khutbah, and he said, this is your month, and this hadith is sahih. He said, this is your month of your zakat. This is the month that you pay zakat. Now Zuhri, who narrated this hadith from Sa'ib bin Yazid, he said, he never told me, Sa'ib bin Yazid, when he said Uthman said this. This is not from the Prophet. Sa'ib ibn Yazid said, Zuhri said, Sa'ib ibn Yazid never told me actually what was that month. Uthman ibn Affan is doing khutbah sometime during the year, and he tells people, this is your month of zakat. So you should. Allahu A'lam. Then he said, Sa'ib ibn Yazid never told me what was that month that Uthman made khutbah in. He said, I never asked him. So this is the only hadith that can tell you what, like it looks like Uthman ibn Affan thought that there is a month where you pay zakat. There is no such month that you pay zakat. It is his saying, but you know that zakat can be in crops. And some crops, like the wheat, you take it in the summer. Dates is in the fall. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, آتُ حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ, give its due right at the day when harvesting time. So if you give dates in harvesting time, it will be like September. For the wheat, it will be like June. Some countries July, some countries May. So it's like there is no month for zakat really. So and this stuff here, one hadith can become ijma'. You understand? Information fly, go from one place to another. People listen to it, believe it, because they have no other choice except to believe it. They don't have any. And then suddenly it is ijma'. You understand? So it has to be looked at again.
So because there's no.
But
what? People want to pay in time one.
Well, there is no time for zakat. So it is either if we can establish that you have to pay every year, then you can, of course, for the silver, for example, then you have to pay it when it is due. Let's say take it from the way the fuqaha say. You have an amount of money which has reached the nisab. Even the nisab, almost you will never find something to say about nisab except for the hadith of silver, that it is
nisab means limit, yeah.
The limit, how much you should have, limit you have, so you can pay zakat. Like there is the hadith of Jabir about the riqqa, which is the silver, that it has to be 5 awaqi, which is 200 dirham, which today is different from, it differs from how much the silver is worth to make it up in money, because some money is silver. The zakat of the camels, of course, it's known. You have to have from the hadith of Bukhari, that Anas, that you have to have at least 5 camels before you start giving zakat. And then
so this hadith of silver, is that sahih?
The hadith of Jabir, it's in Muslim.
That says
5 awaq, yeah.
That the Prophet said.
Yes, the marfu'.
So that's alright then. We're okay with silver then, yeah?
The hadith is marfu' from Jabir, yes. So the hadith of Anas also looks marfu', from the sadaqah of the Prophet, and then it says 5 camels. Then you start giving zakat, 40 sheep to start giving zakat.
Isn't that Abu Bakr saying it?
Abu Bakr writing a book, they say this is the sadaqah of the Prophet, and the book of the Prophet. Sadaqah, he says this is the sadaqah that the Prophet has done, and then he starts mentioning the wording, which clearly shows that it's wording, it's not like the Prophet ordered or something.
Just a general?
It's very long hadith, it goes into details. If we go to that, we have gone through zakat. To just say 5 camels, 5 camels and 25, up to 35, up to 45, up to 60, then up to 70, up to 90. This is how it says. Like if you have below 25, every 5 camels you give 1 sheep. When it's 25, then you have to give bintu makhad. You understand what bintu makhad was? Then from between 26 and 35, you give bintu labun. And between 36 and 45, you give haqqa. And then you double it up to, and what if you don't have this, you give this, and if you have it, how much? It's very long hadith, so you can just with that hadith, you have to spend a whole lesson just talking about that hadith. So, and the zakat of the crops, that of course for wheat and barley and dates, it has to be 5 awsuq. I said it yesterday, 5 awsuq. What does it mean? 300. They say 315 kilos or something. Yes. So for you to start giving zakat in these 3 specific things, there is hadith that make it actually general, that there is nothing. If whatever you get, if it's less than 3, that is general. So it will make it even for anything that comes from the land. However, it might be that this hadith is the same hadith, but someone narrated it in a different way. So that needs looking as well.
All these hadiths, they don't say one. They pay.
No, for the zakat of the land, the crops, it's easy.
So the verse of Quran says.
The Quran says you give it when it is at harvest day. وآتوا حقه يوم حصاده, the harvest day. Ibn Hazm here say this ayah, not him only, him and many before him. Say this ayah, it has nothing to do with zakat. Give its due right when it is in harvest day. His proof is, say, we can't give it in harvest day anyway. He said, how are you going to give wheat and barley in harvest day, when the Prophet says that you can't give barley and wheat if it's less than 5 awsuq? And when you say 5 awsuq of barley, it doesn't mean barley in its, when it's still in the, what we call it, yeah, it's not even dried. You have first to take it away. You know what they do? First they put it somewhere, they hit it, or they take camels, cows to walk on it, so the skin goes out, and then they start taking all this rubbish, this, you understand, until it's clean, just the wheat. Then they give the zakat. This is how they do it. Because the Prophet didn't say in the hadith that says 5 awsuq, it doesn't say 5 awsuq of crops, it says 5 awsuq of barley. It means clean barley, clean wheat as well. You understand? Even dates, when you take it, you don't, when you give it, you don't take it like, when you take it from the tree, you don't take it one by one, pick it one by one. It comes like, all together. Then when you give zakat, you have to like take it out. You understand? The way you buy it from the today from the shop. This is how you give zakat of dates. So Ibn Hazm say that is a lot of work. When you harvest the wheat until you give it away, it might be days or weeks. It's definitely it's not few days. It might take weeks to finish all this. That is not really right. Today there are machines that can do all these things in one day. You take it, the machine will clean it straight away. And Allah said, give it the day when it is the harvest day. That means not everything you have to wait for it. There are some crops that you have to wait until clean and stuff, but some you don't. And if Allah said give it the day of it when it is due, that will set the time from when you are liable for the zakat. So, if someone sell his crops one day before its harvest, it's not his duty to pay zakat. It's for the person who bought it, because the zakat is to be paid. It just gives you, show you this ayah, show you when it is due. So it's not his duty anymore to pay zakat. It's for the one who bought it and harvested it. Because if this ayah, without this ayah, we will not know. Is it the responsibility of the one who, when it was 1 month old, or when it was, you understand, who's the responsibility to pay zakat for it? Also about this, the liability if something happens to the corpse. You understand? Because some people, yesterday we were dealing with this issue. If someone sets aside zakat and then it's lost, you understand? Who is, does the person have to pay zakat? No, he doesn't have to pay zakat because it is lost. According to Ibn Hazm, he say he must pay zakat. Whether it is lost or not, the zakat is due now, it is a loan on him. We have spoken about this. You remember the argument? Yeah. He said it is a loan on him. The zakat is due today, harvest, when it's ready, and then he lost it. It's a loan on him. No, it is not a loan on him. Unless he didn't give it, let's say it's harvest day. And the person who has the right to take it came to take it, but for some reason he didn't want to give it to him. Come later and take it. And something happened to it. What happens here? He will be liable. Because the person came to take it, the one who deserved it, to take it, came to take it in time. He didn't give it for any reason, without the other person like agreement. It's not like the other person said, yeah, I keep it with you, amana or something. And then it was lost. Who is liable for it?
The one who kept it.
The one who kept it. He should have given it to the owner. But if the owner is the one who delayed to come to take it, or the person who deserved it, he is the one who delayed to come to take it, and he is keeping it aside, he is keeping it as amana. And everybody agrees that if someone has an amana and he loses it without any neglect from his side, then he is not liable. You come to me and tell me, keep this with you. You are asking me to keep it for you. So I am doing you a favor. I don't neglect it, I keep it safe. If someone breaks in my house and take it, why should I pay you? I mean, my property is haram. Your property is gone. Your property is gone. Yeah, protect it as much as you can. But this is your property, it's gone. Now, my property is haram for you, unless with proof. What proof you have that you have to take a property from me? Punish me the way I punished you. I didn't punish you, I did you a favor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِنْ عَاقَبْتُمْ فَعَاقِبُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا عُوقِبْتُمْ بِهِ. someone does something against you, then like take compensation similar. But I didn't punish you, I didn't do anything wrong to you. But if this is yours and I take it from you without your permission and I hide it safely for you and someone comes and take it, then I am liable. You understand? Because here I transgressed against you, so you can't transgress against me and take something. Now it's lost, you take something similar from me. Yeah, that one probably. That one is better. And new and bigger. Okay. You understand this about the zakat, yeah? We spoke about this before, yesterday, and said when the setting aside of zakat is possible, but part of the wealth is destroyed before the setting aside. But I don't understand this B thingy. When the setting aside of zakat is possible, but part of the wealth is destroyed before the setting aside. So is it a question or?
Yeah, it's for you to comment on, but you've already commented.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. When the owner has to pay zakat but dies before zakat is due. Nobody has to pay zakat but his zakat is died before the zakat is due. Someone has to pay zakat of what? Let's say we take it that you have to pay zakat every year.
We don't know that.
No, let's say that you have to pay zakat every year of gold. And you have enough gold to pay zakat. But you die before the specific time of paying zakat is due. Then there is no zakat on you. Zakat on you is an obligation on you when it starts. Like if someone dies before prayer time, he dies between Fajr and Dhuhr, 10 o'clock in the morning. Who is good to, does he has to pay Dhuhr? Pray Dhuhr? No, he doesn't have to pray Dhuhr because he died at 10 o'clock. Dhuhr starts at 11:30. So he doesn't have to pray Dhuhr. And no one has to pray Dhuhr on his behalf now. Because it's not due yet. If he sleep and wake up, if he go to sleep and wake up, or let's say this person said, he made a vow that he will pray when his son comes from trouble and sees him. So his son comes and he's so happy, he dies with heart attack. But not straight away. He had enough time to pray. But he didn't pray that day. Then it's an obligation on him to pray. And therefore someone must pray this prayer on his behalf. Yes?
What if he dies when it's due? When the zakat is due?
Yes, that is a loan. Then the hadith of the Prophet is clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, min ba'di wasiyatin yusiha biha aw dayn. The property of a person should be divided between the inheritors after the will and the wasiyah. The will and the loans. And the Prophet made it clear here that the loan means any loan. And that includes the loan of Allah. Actually, the loan of Allah takes priority before the loan of people. So if a person is going to pay zakat, the zakat is due today and he dies today, then of course he must pay the zakat. The people behind who he left must pay zakat. But if we take that he has to wait 1 year to pay zakat, and let's say 2 days before it is due, 3 days before it is due, he dies. Now the ownership of the property goes to his children. Now the children have had this property only for a few days, for 3 days. Now they have to wait for another year before they pay zakat. If we take it from that, you have to pay zakat every year. You understand? But if it is crops, then if he dies after harvest, then he has to pay zakat. If he dies before harvest, then his children will do the harvest and they will have to pay zakat. Because it's a question of paying it due of harvest. It doesn't matter if you started it or you bought it in the middle or you understand? Who pays the zakat if he sells off the crops of fruit on which zakat was due, and similarly when he gives it away as a gift? The ayah clearly shows who has to pay the zakat. If someone harvested and then he sold it, then he has to pay zakat. The one who harvested, because that is the day when it is due. If someone sold it before harvest, just like this, sold the field, whatever it's in it, then he doesn't have to pay zakat. It's for the one who bought it. You understand? And also if he gives it as a gift, still, the one who harvested it, the ayah makes it clear here. So, anything? I think it's clear issues this here. There was another thing that you told me last time when we were going out, but you never repeated it. I don't know if I answered the question about the loan. Who pays the zakat of the loan when we were going out? You told me something about loan. If someone has a loan, who is going to pay the zakat? Like someone has 1,000 pounds. Or someone has 1 ton of dates, but he gives it away as a loan. Or someone, let's say money is easier to. Someone has 1,000 pounds or 1 kilo of silver as a loan. He gave it to someone as a loan. Who is going to give the zakat? You told me that you asked this question before. Was it you, Akhtar? I don't know. Okay, so if you didn't ask, that means you don't need to know.
If you don't know if the people take every year,
yeah.
That's not right. What would we do then?
When we come to the zakat, we will see. It's not a question of sometimes you don't have an answer. We will have to go to ask someone else. If someone tells us it's ijma', we say no. We keep asking people until someone give us an answer. Or we keep thinking and looking at the hadith until we have an answer. Huh? Or maybe, why don't you give me an answer? Okay. Yeah, why should I tell you? If you don't know an answer for something, if anything, any matter, you have to establish where to take a religion from. Now, if someone tell us, if question comes up and we don't know the answer for it, but the Shia have already established the answer because their imam have told them the answer, are we going to say, oh, because we don't know answer for this, and the Shia have found the answer now from their liars, imams, because Ali ibn Abi Talib was not their imam anyway, or neither Hassan, neither Hussein. Are we going to say, okay, because we don't know the answer, we are going to take it from them? I mean, these people of four madahib, when they have decided to take this hadith da'if or the qiyas or whatever. At the time there was people, Shia, saying the same thing here. They had answers for everything. Why didn't they go and say, okay, because we don't have an answer, let's take it from them? You understand? Now, if you are convinced with proofs that ijma' is wrong, that goes, okay, what is the difference? You don't know that ijma' is wrong. You know that taking the saying of the imams is wrong. Why do you take ijma' then? Just because you don't have an answer, you take ijma'? No. What you can do is, where there is no problem like this, I am not responsible to collect zakat anyway, but let's say I was responsible to collect zakat. And I know that there is zakat, but I don't know when it is due. I will have to search, keep searching until I find the solution, or I will have to work it out with the people, meaning say, oh, people, listen, I don't know how this zakat is, I don't know how zakat is to be given. You know that there is zakat, an obligation, and I don't know it yet, and I will leave it for you, or either we'll have to come to a compromise. Let's agree about something.
But the Khalifa, he always done.
Yeah.
Do something, and he goes back to the religion.
Yeah.
So they have to pay him when he asks for it.
No, this is what happens. The zakat, the ayat of the zakat speaks, say, haqq. Haqq, it's a right. When it's a right, it has to be known. You understand? It has to be exact. Or, this zakat has to be collected like this. When the society, like the people, the group of the Jama'ah of the Muslims need proper money, they have to, and there is not enough money. Let's say the zakat has been given, and there is not enough money. People still need money to defend themselves, to have, for protection of the society from the ummah, to protect the ummah, you need money to. So what you do in this case? Everybody will agree that here the leader has to go and take from everybody money by force if necessary. The one who is wealthy, they will have to take from him a lot of money. It's like a percentage. And the one who is poor, they have to take from him according to his means. You understand? He can, for example, say everybody has to pay 10% of what he has. Everything that he has, he owns. Because this is what is needed.
Where is the evidence for that? The Caliph can just make taxes.
Not make taxes.
Or collect money then, sorry.
This money of the Muslims are forbidden. But it is an obligation on the Muslims to defend the land of the Muslims. Yeah? It is an obligation on the Muslims to free the Muslims that are imprisoned. Fukul ani, at'imul ja'i'. It is the obligation of the Muslims to feed the one who are hungry. Let's say there are Muslims, there is hunger. There is no rain, there is hunger, and some people have wealth, some people. It is an obligation on them to feed them, to feed those who don't have anything. Now, either they do it, or someone has to do it to make them do it. If you see a munkar, you have to change it. You have to force people to do the right thing sometimes. So he will ask them to give. If everybody must give according to his means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيُنْفِقْ ذُو سَاعَةٍ مِّن سَاعَتِهِ. The one who is rich, he must spend from his wealth the way he is like. لِيُنْفِقْ ذُو سَاعَةٍ مِّن سَاعَتِهِ. The one who is rich must spend according to his means. وَمَنْ قُدِرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقُهُ فَلْيُنْفِقْ مِمَّا أَتَاهُ اللَّهُ. The one who Allah has given him limited rizq, he must spend from what Allah has given him. From what Allah has given him. So it has to be equal. Someone has 1 million, you take from him 100,000, it's needed. Of course you can't. You can guess how much we need money, and then you start collecting it.
Okay, how about if you're fighting a war and the population population is dying of starvation because of a war. Like what happened in Russia. They used to fight stupid wars with China or something like that.
Yes.
People are dying of mass starvation.
Well,
so what's more?
It's question of this.
Fighting a war or feeding the people. These things are going to
defending the religion is more important. There is difference between fighting and defending. Okay. Now, if there is people coming to invade the land of Islam, then people has to die to defend their land, to defend the religion.
Starving or getting bullied.
People have to die to defend Islam, whether with starvation, with anything. So, so in that case, you have to spend the money on defense.
So all this money on zakat is stored?
No, the zakat money, it goes for fi sabilillah as well, for the defense.
What is in that?
Yeah, it goes. وفي سبيل الله. إنما الصدقات الصدقات في الفقراء مساكين والعاملين عليها والمؤلفة قلوبهم وفي الرقاب والغارمين وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل في سبيل الله. Some people have said في سبيل الله here means everything في سبيل الله. You understand? It can be anything. It's not only jihad. في سبيل الله. Anything في سبيل الله. That is wrong. Because فقراء and masakin also في سبيل الله. So why just say في سبيل الله? It's enough. You understand?
So this definitely is jihad.
No, this is definitely jihad only. في سبيل الله. As for the zakat has never been, not at any time since the Prophet came until the last Islamic state has fallen. Uthmanis, if they were, until then, never zakat was a main income of to the Muslims, like to Baytul Mal. It wasn't the main income at all. No, the main income always was from jihad.
Booty.
War booty. War booty. So this is how the main income. And this zakat was just extra.
So the Islamic State, they're always rich.
Oh,
they always have power.
The zakat, it's they don't mention it. Understand? They don't. Some khalifas, they were not even interested in collecting it because of the money that comes from wars. And they go and take a whole country with the whole population.
So they have all this property.
Yeah. It wasn't really zakat was not that main. It was always something just extra. People mostly.
So the problem here you're having is with the cows. There's nothing that mentions
the hadith of the cows is like this. The hadith of the cows, the main hadith of cows, is the hadith of Mu'adh, narrated by Masruq and narrated by Tawus. Tawus definitely didn't meet Mu'adh, and Masruq, it has been said he never met Mu'adh. Now, the fact that it has been said, it has to be accepted. Some people, when they were stuck, they said, no, he met him. Now, even the hadith, this hadith, for example, some people say, okay, the hadith of Tawus and the hadith of Masruq from Mu'adh give strength to each other. 1 + 1. You understand? Now, how can you make these two hadith? The hadith of Tawus says this, that Mu'adh went to Yemen. It's one hadith that speaks about the cows. It speaks about other things that the Prophet told him, don't take zakat except from dates and barley, wheat, and raisin. You understand? Now, this is one hadith from Tawus and from Mu'adh, and from Masruq from Mu'adh. Now, this hadith, when it speaks about crops, not to take except from this, nobody has taken this hadith. Because the four madhahib, they take zakat from everything. Potatoes, from bananas, from apples, from everything. You understand? So if the hadith of Mu'adh is sahih, you have to take it fully. If it's not sahih, then you shouldn't take it. Because the hadith, this is... Yeah.
Can't we do qiyas on the camels?
You can't do. Why don't you do qiyas on the sheep? There are some cows that looks like sheep, as small as sheep. In Afghanistan, their cows some sheep are bigger than the cows.
Well, I mean, so it says 5 camels. There's no zakat on 5 camels or less.
Yeah.
So can't we?
Why don't you say 40 cows? Because why don't you say we do cows?
The way you use the camels, you use qiyas on the cows.
Why don't you do qiyas on the sheep?
On the sheep?
Yeah.
What's the sheep one again? Just remind me.
For every 40 sheep, you pay you give one.
You give 1 sheep.
Yeah, for every 40.
Okay, I see what you mean. If you're using camels,
yeah,
why not use sheep?
Yes.
Because the camels are bigger and more expensive
than
the sheep, let's say.
Yeah, and there are some sheep that are bigger than cows.
Are they?
Yeah, if you see the kind of cows that we have in Afghanistan, it's very small.
Okay.
Some kind of cows. So, or probably with the big ones we make them like camels, and the small ones we can make them like sheep. You understand? So, anyway, we can do different kind of qiyas. The hadith says that the Prophet, when he divided camels between the Sahaba, when they go to war, he will give a Sahabi 1 cow, 1 camel, and other Sahaba, he will give them 12 sheep, or 10 sheep, like for every camel, 10 sheep. You understand? So you can work it out like...
a camel is worth
10 sheep.
10 sheep.
But then, the Prophet was taking zakat from 40 sheep, but he took zakat from 5 camels, that is 50 sheep. You understand? Okay, so look, here, the people of the camel, the Prophet should have taken a sheep from 4 camels. This is the qiyas. He didn't. So just forget about this qiyas. Where were we before you come to this? Yeah, the hadith of Mu'adh that says for every 30 cows he takes 1 cow. Now if you take the hadith of Tawus and the hadith of Masruq from Mu'adh, they are both broken. It is a possibility that both Tawus and Masruq have heard the hadith from the same person who narrated it from Mu'adh. It is a possibility that the person who narrated this hadith from Mu'adh is weak. Yeah, there are many weak people who narrate from the Sahaba. And it's a possibility that this weak person is the one who told Tawus, and he is the one who told Masruq. It is a possibility that Tawus or heard it from Masruq, or Masruq narrated it from Tawus, and one of them narrated it, and one of them heard it from someone weak from Mu'adh. Even if you look at this hadith, you will see this, that the hadith of Tawus says like this, that Mu'adh came to Sham and he asked them for zakat of the cows, and then the people asked him some question, asked him to take zakat from some stuff. He said, I don't know whether to take it or not. I will go back and ask the Prophet. The hadith of Tawus says that he, before was able to come back and speak to the Prophet, died. The hadith of Masruq, it says that he went back to the Prophet. He asked him, and the Prophet said, you shouldn't take zakat of this. Now tell me, this hadith, make this hadith stronger?
Can't corroborate them.
Huh? If it doesn't make it stronger, this is this make this weaker, and this, because this is weak and this is weak, this make this weaker. Huh? If it was sahih, it will make it weaker but stays sahih. But this will make this weaker, and this one makes this weaker.
And they still take it.
Yeah.
Or the former lives.
Well, not the former lives. Ibn Hazm take it. Ibn Hazm made it da'if at the beginning of the argument. He said this hadith is weak because Tawus never met Mu'adh, because Masruq never met Mu'adh, so this hadith is weak. He went on refuting them. At the end said, and then I thought about it again.
Oh, he writes that?
Yeah, yeah. He said, I thought about it again. Masruq was a man at the time of Mu'adh, and he was there when Mu'adh was doing this. So he has seen it with his eyes. Huh?
That's the fact that Masri always goes, Ibn Hazm, he corrects himself. And I always thought, how do you mean he corrects himself?
Why didn't he right now? Why didn't you push out others?
No, they can't. They can't, because when they write, and then they have. Even today, they still do this. You know why? Because they write in. I mean, it's easy when you have something like this. Huh? You have something like this. When something is correct, you take one page, throw it away, and then replace it with another page. But when you have a book, and then you have to cross, that book is not good enough anymore. You understand? So he must explain what happened. You understand? So this is you find a lot of books like this. They say and then after that, after I said what I said, I found, you find it many books even today. People who write, they will do the same thing. After I finished writing this, I found the hadith that says something different, and therefore I go back and.
He had a problem with pasteurizing sheep and non-pasteurizing sheep.
What? Okay, yeah, Sa'ima.
Yeah, because he was saying that, what's it called? There's a hadith that.
Laysa fi Sa'ima, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a different issue. There is a different issue here that the fuqaha they say the zakat of the animals only if they graze outdoor. But if you have to buy food for them, and you feed them, then the zakat is not in there. This has to do with what we call mafhum al-mukhalafa. Yeah? The understanding of the opposite. The mafhum mukhalafa. That's because the Prophet mentioned that there is no zakat in the sa'ima unless it's so and so. Sa'ima means the one that grazes outdoor. So said if he mentions the sa'ima, that means other than sa'ima is different. This is something that will come later. And I thought I have started talking about the second page here without realizing.
Yeah, I thought I could sneak that one on as well.
But for business, if you use them as a business, like the houses, they say, okay, if you have 10 houses that you use for your own personal life,
you don't
have to pay.
Or when you rent it.
But if these houses are for business, you buy them and sell them, or you rent them, then you have to pay zakat.
It's unanimous.
If you have cars to use 10, no problem, no matter how expensive they are. But if you are buying and selling, then you have to pay zakat on them. Yeah.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what unanimously. But then, Okay, if you have sheep that you don't sell and buy, you have to pay zakat. You understand?
Do you? Oh yeah, because you...
No.
Do you?
Yes.
Huh?
No, it has nothing to do with mukhalafa here. It's a question of, they say...
I don't understand.
Look, the Prophet said the zakat, they say the zakat that is mentioned in the hadith is this and this and this and this, namely wheat, barley, dates, camels, sheep,
Raisins.
they say raisins,
Yeah, that's true.
They say cows, they say honey,
Yeah, from the bees.
gold and silver.
But not jewelry.
Okay? So this is the things that are mentioned generally. Of course, then some people say raisins, there is no hadith sahih. The jewelry, no, not jewelry. Honey, there is no hadith sahih. You can say, I don't know a hadith sahih. There is a hadith of Abu Dhar that says anyone who has cows and he doesn't give it its due right. But you understand? What is the due right of the cows? Is it the zakat really? You understand? Because the Prophet have made it clear in some hadith that it's due right, not only zakat. Some people might, you understand?
Look after it.
People say zakat
Look after the
because
cow.
when the Prophet said due right. But the hadith in Bukhari that the Prophet said about due right of the camel is the day that you have to milk it.
Yeah.
Or the day when it drinks. The camels are in the desert, you don't drink every day. But the day that it is, you understand? And in another hadith that...
So what do you mean? Look after the camel, you mean?
No, milk it. Take the milk away, out.
Alright,
Yeah.
take the milk out.
Drink it, give away some.
Give it its due right.
Yeah.
So, meaning milk it, drink from it and give it to other
Yes.
people. That's its due right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got nothing to do with the
Ibn
camel.
Hazm says due right, that is clearly it makes it
Zakat.
zakat.
But you're saying due right can mean other things.
But Ibn Hazm say you don't pay zakat for horses.
Yeah, because
But
the
then-
hadith says no zakat on horses or slaves.
Yeah, but the Prophet
That's
said
the-
whoever has horses and he doesn't forget its right, حق Allah, the right of Allah in its في رقابها. He doesn't forget the right of Allah.
It's for the camel.
So that means there is
On his back.
the neck. That means raqaba, an animal. You count with the raqaba. You understand? Every animal is counted with a neck. Or have 10 necks here. We call it. You understand? That's what they mean. So here, Ibn Hazm doesn't say this is means the zakat.
Ah, I see the point, yeah.
You understand?
If you're using due right all the time, use it there as well. Yeah.
So yeah, these.
So what does he mean there though?
Okay.
Prophet, due right with the horse there.
Yeah, that's mean you have to give something. You have to, either it is the cut, generally. But what I was talking about, now, okay, we say these things, we pay zakat. Whether it is for you to keep or for you to sell. We say if you have gold, when you pay gold,
Yeah.
you pay gold, zakat of gold. It's not because you sell gold, because you have it at home.
Kept,
You understand? You keep it,
Yeah.
you still pay zakat on it. Now, let's say you have gold and you are selling it. You see, before the money was gold and people were having gold to keep, and then they pay zakat on it. Now, if you have gold to keep, to sell,
You still go. Yeah.
sell gold. What is sell gold?
Yeah.
Sell money.
Yeah.
People sell money.
Yeah. What you're gonna say?
But
No, what he's
gold
gonna,
is valuable.
Yeah, and you sell it.
Today can't sell notes money.
No, what he's gonna
You
say?
can't sell
No,
money.
hang on.
You can't sell gold for silver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
and someone who has gold, let's say the money, some money is valued with gold, and some money is valued with silver.
In all days, this was the money.
Yeah?
They don't have paper.
Yes. Yeah, but before they used to sell the money. Money is sold. You see, when I sell you something, you are selling me something. It's not you are buying from me. Huh? You are selling. I am selling you money. You are selling me a car.
Yeah.
What is selling? It's exchanging.
Yeah, exchanging.
Okay. So I sell you money. You sell me a car.
And only that's how it looks like. That's exchanging.
Yes.
You see, you exchange shoes for.
Today, just to is a terminology that the one who gives the money is buying, and the one who gives the goods, other things, is selling. But the truth is,
exchanging.
I am selling, you are selling.
Yeah.
You understand? So here, now when we say, forget about the gold if you can't think about it. Someone is taking dates, harvesting the dates to eat, and someone is harvesting the dates to sell. No, dates, everything except these mentioned things by the Prophet, they say you still have to pay zakat, even if you don't have them to keep. If you have them for business, you have to pay the zakat of the business. So okay, if I have dates now and it's business, how many zakat I have to give? One for the harvesting, one for the zakat of the dates, because it's dates, and another zakat for the business. So I have to pay twice.
Why you say that?
No, they will say you pay once.
Yeah. So why
Which one I will
you do it there? Why can't you do it with your personal
which one I am going to pay?
The one for the states.
Why not the one of the business?
Yeah. Because it has an internal mechanism in it saying harvest, you pay, whether you own it or you don't sell it.
Because there is no hadith, such hadith that says you have to pay zakat for business. They just say you have to. because Allah said take from their wealth.
Oh, that is what.
Huh?
That's why I was asking you the other day.
Your wealth
I was asking you about my TV and my sofa.
What about your house that you live in? Isn't it your wealth?
So all the business that you do, you don't do all this stuff.
No, there is no proof for that. There is no proof for that.
So a big millionaire.
Yeah.
And he just.
If he doesn't have gold and silver,
Yeah,
actually even the gold, do you know any hadith about gold?
What of
Gold.
Yeah.
Zakat gold.
Yeah, I know one. There was a woman.
Yeah, that time we have gold. She has.
There's a woman.
Yeah.
And she had bracelets.
Yeah.
And he said they're going to turn into fire. What about that one?
Yeah, that hadith is nice.
Famous life.
That hadith is nice.
It's weak. It's weak.
That we will come to that inshallah. All these were given to me. Yeah, Bismillah. Okay, so you say scholars agree. Now you can read it. I will read from this side. It's fine. If you want to follow. Okay. Scholars agree about the following two kinds of mineral, gold and silver, that are not jewelry. 3 types of animals, camels, cows and sheep. 2 types of grain, wheat and barley. 2 types of fruit, dates and raisin. Yes, this is what we know from the ijma', that this is actually what the majority report, that the fuqaha agree, muhaddithin and fuqaha agree, that type of things that zakat definitely will have to be paid in are the gold and silver. We don't know anyone who said gold and silver zakat shouldn't be paid in it. There is hadith in Muslim that whoever ما من صاحب ذهب ولا فضة, no owner of gold, of silver, and he doesn't give its due right in it, then the day of judgment it will be put as safa'ih. I can't translate this word. And like safa is pieces of metal that will be put on his back and hot on his back. So that is shows that there is a right in gold and jewelry. What is this right? This is the issue, what we were talking about before yesterday. And then the types of animals that they agree on that zakat should be paid is camels, cows, sheep. They disagree about other things like horses, donkeys, whether you have to pay zakat or not, even if it's for business. 2 types of grain, wheat and barley. This is also agreed by almost everybody that we know. We don't know anyone who has different opinion. And 2 types of fruit, dates and raisin. This is wrong. They agree about dates. They agree about dates, but the majority, including Sha'bi, Shurayh, Qadi, Ibn Hazm, Abu al-Hasan bin Mughallis, Abu Bakr bin Dawud, from the Zahiris, they don't say raisin, there is zakat in it. There is few hadith, of course, about raisin, but it's still the most of the hadith of zakat are either they are weak. Most of the hadith.
You say that it should be because of the harvest. The verse that says
it's not the reason. The reason is not harvested. It's the grapes that are harvested. Raisin is later. You take the raisin, you cook it. You understand? If you count it, the weight of the raisin will drop too much from raisin. You understand? I mean, if you take it as grapes, let's say you take it as grapes, of course, because if we take it as there is no limit on grapes, how much you pay zakat, that's fine. But if you take it as the general hadith that says no below 5 awsuq, there is no zakat in anything below 5 awsuq. Then if you take 5 awsuq of raisin and you cook it, it will drop in the weight, and then you don't have. This is what you have to look at when you say وَآتُ حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ. You have to give its due right on the day of when it is harvested. You have to check that day how much it is its weight, not later on. So, is there zakat on gold and silver? If yes, how much do we pay? And is there zakat on jewelry? If no, why? Now, zakat on gold, and I told you the hadith that the majority use this hadith, and one of them is the hadith which is in Muslim. This hadith actually in Muslim is the narration of Suhail ibn Abi Salih, and we have spoken before about Suhail ibn Abi Salih that Bukhari doesn't narrate from him, Muslim accept him, and people have different opinions about his hadith. Definitely all his hadith are not accepted by anybody. Is like someone like this, his hadith should be taken at all or not? This is the issue. The zakat on gold and silver, the hadith of silver, you find it in the hadith of, which is in Bukhari. There is in it Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Muthanna al-Ansari. If you look at Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Muthanna al-Ansari, is very weak. Not very weak, I mean, everybody almost agree that he is weak from the mutaqaddimin. He is not the only one to narrate this hadith, but Hamad ibn Salama narrated it. Now, this hadith is the hadith of Abu Bakr, the book of Sadaqah that the Prophet gave him. Now, if sometimes someone is weak, but he is weak because of his memory, not that because he is a liar or something. In this case, his hadith, if he says, oh, this is a book, it has been written and given to me, and he is reading from that book, then his hadith can be looked at. because he is not a liar. He has problem with his memory, but he has a book on his hand. He is reading from his book. You understand? So what? So he is. This hadith here is narrated by Hamad ibn Salama, by this man, Muhammad ibn Abdullah ibn Muthanna al-Ansari, from his father, from Tumama, from the same way, and from Ayyub Sikhtiyani. He also did the same thing, narrated this hadith, and he said, even Ayyub Sikhtiyani said, I saw the stamp. He said, I saw the stamp of the Prophet on the book. The Prophet had stamp before. Sometimes there are some hadith that it appears like to be broken in the chain. Like if someone, Salim bin Abdullah, says, I have the book of Umar ibn Khattab. Now Salim never met Umar ibn Khattab, his grandfather. He never was there to see him when he was alive. But he said, I have the book of Umar ibn Khattab from the Prophet. Now, this is like we today saying we have Bukhari. I mean, no matter how we have, the majority of people have to take Bukhari and Quran and read it regardless and do what is in it. Not to say, oh, I don't know if this is Sahih or not. I found it in library, maybe it's lie. Nobody told me that. You understand? The same thing. This rule should be applied probably to, but we have to establish there is difference between Bukhari today in our hand. You have Bukhari here, you go to Russia, you will find the same Bukhari. You go to Mongolia, you will find the same Bukhari. You understand? It's like we are sure that this is the same book, the same. But when Salim bin Abdullah, here you have to look. I mean, Salim bin Abdullah is trustworthy. When he has this book, where it came from. I mean, it's not everybody agrees in his time that this is the book of Umar ibn Khattab. So we must know from where he got it. As long as he is satisfied, I think it should be okay, because there is different opinion about this. Many people, like Ibn Hazm, for example, or they don't accept what we call wijada, something that you find. At their time, they used to require that if you find a hadith in a book, you have to know where it came from. Meaning that a person must give him the book and say, this book is mine, and it was given to me by this person. They still need the isnad. You understand? So the zakat of gold, we might, it is.
So you're saying this book,
There is the three books. The books of Bukhari, which come to us from Anas bin Malik. The book of Umar bin Khattab, that he says is for the Prophet, which comes from his grandson, Salim bin Abdullah. And we have the book of Amr ibn Hazm, which comes from his children, from his family. Now, after you establish, if you can establish that these three books are connected to the Prophet, then they might be used as evidence to take zakat. And most of these three books, they have in them the zakat of camels, sheep, silver, wheat, barley, and dates. The zakat of the anything that has harvested is not a problem anyway. It goes back to the gold. The gold, we don't have hadith which it's not sahih, probably from this. And the majority of people, how they do it, gold used to be sold for silver. You understand? 1 dinar. Dinar means gold. Dirham means silver. 1 dinar at the time of the Prophet equals to 12 dirham. Now, the Prophet said that there is no in less than 5 uqiyah, which is silver. Less than 5 uqiyah, then there is no zakat in it. If there is 5 uqiyah, then it's ruba' al-ushr. that comes in the hadith of Abu Bakr Siddiq, that it's ربع العشر, the quarter of the tenth, that is 2.5%. Yeah.
1/40.
Quarter of the tenth.
1/40.
Yeah. It's 100 by 10 is 10. The quarter of 10 is 2.5. So this hadith, no, the majority, they do it this way. They either rely on the hadith of Zuhri, which is his saying, even though it is connected to the hadith of Salim bin Abdullah from Umar bin Khattab, but later he started talking from himself. So people rely on this hadith. Or and he actually did it the same way. What he says, now 200 dirham are equal to 40 gold or whatever, and then they just like transfer, they make the silver how much is equal to gold, they make the same nisab. They say then if you shouldn't pay for less than 200, you shouldn't pay for less than 40. If you pay the quarter for the gold, you pay for the quarter of, Ibn Hazm, for example, narrates. Now we have some hadith.
You mean if you paid a quarter for the silver?
Yeah,
and you paid a quarter for the gold.
The quarter of the tenth.
Quarter of the tenth.
Yeah. Now the majority really in zakat, they rely mostly on Amr ibn Shu'ayb from his father, from his grandfather, and he is unreliable. Or the hadith of Abu Ishaq al-Sabi'i from al-Harith al-A'war, from Asim bin Damra. From al-Harith al-A'war and Asim bin Damra from Ali. Now, al-Harith al-A'war says from Ali from the Prophet, and al-Harith is a liar, almost unanimously. Asim bin Damra, the previous people didn't say anything bad about him. The previous. Like Ahmad bin Hanbal said, he is better than al-Harith. Better than al-Harith doesn't mean that he is good. Al-Harith is a liar. You understand? Ali ibn al-Madini said he is trustworthy. Al-Ijli said he is trustworthy. Ali ibn al-Madini here is the only person from the previous people who said he is trustworthy. The others just compared him to some weak people, that he is better than them. Then Ibn Adi said his hadith doesn't look like the hadith of this trustworthy people. Ibn Hibban said his hadith, and he said the problem is from him. It's not like someone else. And also Ibn Hibban.
It makes everyone trust.
No. Ibn Hibban said this person makes a lot of mistakes, and his hadith is not to be accepted. You see, Ibn Hibban, if he speaks about someone who is tabi'i, then he is gone. So his hadith shouldn't be accepted really. And Ibn Hazm narrates rely also a little bit on his, not always, but few hadith, and it's a mistake anyway. His hadith is clearly wrong. He says that Ali ibn Abi Talib says, he doesn't say that the Prophet said, Ali from the Prophet, but some weak people, they mix them up. They don't know what is the hadith of Al-Harith al-A'war and with hadith of Asim ibn Damra. So the zakat of gold and silver, this is what the majority, it is not the majority. We don't know anyone who said there is no zakat on gold and silver. You understand? Now if you have to prove it, I say
the hadith is questionable.
Most of the hadith. The only hadith that can prove that, for the silver we have hadith, but for the gold, for the gold, no, the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, which is in Bukhari, the hadith is sahih, but below 5 uqiyya there is no zakah. But the hadith that says how much is the hadith of Abu Bakr Siddiq, which is in Bukhari, which I told you there is a problem with Abdullah ibn al-Muthanna al-Ansari. But Hammad ibn Salama narrated it. It's a book, I'll explain to you what the thing about the book. Now, is the hadith from Jabir weak to say there is no zakat in jewelry? And is the hadith from Amr ibn Shu'ayb weak that says a woman had 2 bracelets of gold and she took them off when she heard they would turn into rings? of fire on the day of judgment. Yes, these hadith are all weak. The hadith of Jabir that there is no zakat on jewelry is most likely to be his saying, because everybody who narrated it from him, from the Prophet, is weak. Nobody narrated this hadith from Jabir. That this hadith is known to be the trustworthy people, like Abu Zubair said, he asked Amr ibn Dinar, he said, we asked Jabir, should a woman pay jewelry in her, zakat in her jewelry? He said, no. And then they told him, sometimes some women have like 1,000 of what, not jewelry, of what we call the measurement mithqal of jewelry of gold. So he said, yeah, she should just like help other people, give us sometime to borrow it to other people. That will be like it's zakat. So he doesn't see zakat in jewelry. Contrary to this, we have the hadith of Fatima bint Qais, which is narrated by Abu Hamza from Sha'bi, from Fatima bint Qais, and sometime it is from Fatima bint Qais, sometime is from Jabir, and Abu Hamza is weak. The hadith of Amr ibn Shu'ayb, from his father, from his grandfather, from Aisha. If you don't consider Amr ibn Shu'ayb to be weak, still all the narrators that narrated it from Amr ibn Shu'ayb are weak. And the hadith is in Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, and Ibn Majah. And then there is another hadith which is from Aisha in Abu Dawud, that she wore bracelet. This is the hadith of, we talk about hadith Aisha, when the Prophet came and saw this woman in her house and she wore bracelet. And then there is another hadith in Abu Dawud from Aisha where she wore the bracelet and the Prophet saw her and she said, I put it as to beautify myself for yourself. He said, that is enough for you to think something to take you to hellfire. Do you pay zakat? She said no. He said, it's enough to take you to hellfire. This hadith as well, it's the narration of Abdullah ibn Shaddad ibn al-Had, and it comes from a weak narration. It should be unanimously considered to be weak. So we don't have any hadith really regarding the zakat. But those who if you say there is gold, zakat in gold and silver, no. Jewelry can be from anything, from diamond, but if it is gold and silver and you take it as to pay zakat in gold and silver, then jewelry is gold and silver, so you have to pay in it. It doesn't say if it's jewelry or if it's something else. Okay? So the hadith says there is no sadaqah, zakat for a Muslim in his horse and on his slave. But what if someone breeds horses, or they used to buy and sell slaves? Or imagine I breed expensive animals like tortoise, do I have to pay zakat on them? Yeah, we go back to the zakat of the urud, zakat of business. The majority say there is zakat in business. The Zahiri say there is no zakat in business. Other than that, now the hadith of Bukhari, where the Prophet says that someone who has horses and he doesn't forget the right of Allah in its neck, that shows like giving away horses. He doesn't forget the right of Allah في رقابها وظهورها, in their neck and their back. Now the right of the neck meanings to give away some of it. That is what it means.
Sadaqah.
Yes, give sadaqah from the.
No zakat.
Well, if it says if they take the hadith of zakat, that you have to pay in camels or cows, because the Prophet, the hadith of Abu Dhar, which says that the owner of camels and cows and sheep who doesn't give is jurite, then he will be in hellfire. It will come above him, like hit him on the day of judgment. Then the hadith of this hadith, it says the due right of the horses. You understand? It doesn't say So it's the same thing. You should say that horses, there is zakat in them, probably. You understand?
Is that what you're...
No, I'm not saying. I'm
what
saying
you
if
understand?
I say if you take this hadith like this, then you have to take
all
all this.
I'm saying, you don't take it like that.
Well, I forget about what I am taking, because I told you I'm going to throw zakat. I'm just going to discuss what they are saying. You understand? Generally, I'm just going to discuss and say what we do the ilzam. If you say this, then why you don't say this? I'm just going briefly regarding this. Now, the hadith of there is no sadaqah on a Muslim, for a Muslim in his horse and his slave. This hadith is Sahih in Bukhari from Abu Hurairah. For the breeding, then those who say, those who take,
there's one hadith that's saying, okay, I'm not asking for what you think, I'm just asking, like, generally. There's one hadith that's saying there is no sadaqah on a horse, and there's another hadith that's saying you have to give its due right.
Yes.
Like,
that is what I'm saying. The hadith that says there is no sadaqah on a man on his horse, it mentions once. It doesn't say plural. And on his slave, like the horse that he uses, and the slave that he uses. Like you have a slave that you use, and you have slaves that you buy and sell, not to use them for your own personal. You understand? So that is how to put the hadith together then.
And the other one that says on the neck, how is it in?
He says someone who has this zakat, the horses. Horses for actually this is for business. It's clearly from the hadith for business.
Okay, so it doesn't give it.
Hadith says on pasturing sheep there is zakat. Do we make qiyas and say this on the same for the pasturing horses? That of course, if you say there is zakat in horses, if you say there is zakat in horses, then you have to see if there is pasturing ones or not. The fuqaha have different opinions. Now the majority says about the pasturing sheep and cows. The hadith which is in Abu Bakr Siddiq, it doesn't say anything about sheep in general. It says sheep, that pasturing sheep. You understand? As for the camels, we don't have a hadith such pasturing camels except from Bahz ibn Hakim, from his father, from his grandfather. And Bahz ibn Hakim, there is different opinions about him, with many considering him to be weak. Even in his hadith, he has brought different things from the other people. You understand? Now there is one thing in fiqh that we say, what we call ziyadat thiqa or taqyid al-mutlaq. If Abu take this hadith from Bukhari, the Prophet said 3 people Allah will not look at them the day of judgment. The one, the musbil al-musbil. You know what musbil is? Musbil is someone who leaves something hanging, something, leaving something hang. If you drop the curtain, that is isbal. Generally, we know about isbal, about having long clothes. But this hadith say al-musbil. The musbil, Allah will not look at him the day of judgment. But what musbil? The one, if you put your hands like this, is isbal. If you put your clothes down like this, trousers now, if I stand up, it will be isbal, even if it reaches this place. So it has to have a limit. Then there is the hadith. That hadith says musbil. But the other hadith say al-musbilu izarahu, the one who does isbal to his izar. You understand? It's specific. Now you can understand that putting the izar above the what we call ankle, we have the hadith what says where it has to stop. But to say generally, anybody who does isbal, Allah will not look at him, then you can't even leave your hands like this, because this is isbal as well. You understand? So what we say here, we say one hadith is mutlaq, one hadith is mutlaq, it doesn't, and the other hadith is from the same narration. It explains. So we have to accept that word, that extra word. It came from the same place. Just to say this person was not really, he said it, but he was not really in the mood to say it in fully. You understand? But still, this person here is not a liar. It's like you come here and they say, we are going to read a book on Friday. You go out and someone asks you, what did he say? You say, he said we are going to read a book. I said we are going to read the book on Friday. And the other person will say, he said we are going to read the book on Friday. And you both are not liars, trustworthy. You didn't lie. You said what I said, but you didn't say everything. He said everything. So we have to take what he said rather than what you said. You understand? We don't say, oh, he said it this way. We say, yeah, he said maybe what he heard, maybe he didn't hear the full sentence, or he didn't care about on Friday, maybe he didn't see it as a big difference, so he just said part of it. So one...
Maybe in that time, that's all the issue is person 4, that's obviously izar.
Yeah, some people might think, oh, what is the difference between izar and trousers, and so he doesn't say it. You understand? But here, when someone says the pasturing cow, and the other one person say no, one person say the Prophet said we have to give zakat in the pasturing cow, and one say we have to give zakat in cows. We say the other person who said pasturing cow is the person who gave the full statement. He is not a liar, so he is not going to add a word from himself. But the other person thought there is no difference between pasturing and non-pasturing, so he said it just, understand. This is generally how you take it. The taqyid is to be taken, generally. Unless if it comes from one narration. If it comes from one narration. The Sahabi, both people narrated from Abu Hurairah, or both people narrated from Abu Bakr, or from Umar, or from Amr ibn Hazm. If they say it this way, then we say, yeah, Abu Hurairah definitely didn't know two different hadith, and he can see the difference between them, that one says something and one says something, and then he will tell one person this, and he will tell another person this, when they are two almost similar, and it will be a big problem. So he will understand that I have to tell both person, I heard the Prophet saying this one time, and I heard the Prophet saying this one time. You understand? But except when it comes from two different Sahaba. When it comes from two different Sahaba, it comes from Jabir and from Abu Hurairah. No, it's not from the same Sahabi. No, it comes now from the two different Sahaba. And then there is here a problem. Unless these two Sahaba say we heard it in the same place, like the Prophet said it in the same day. If he said the Prophet saw it in the same day, then one Sahabi said it fully, and one of them said part of it. But if they say it in different occasions, if there is a possibility that they have heard it from different occasions, then the Prophet sometimes says something, and then another time he may say something different, because he came wahi. Every time wahi come to him. So the wahi might say something, and then another time it says something different. So here you have to look at it and deal with it. However, Ibn Hazm, when he discussed this with the majority of the people who say, because it is the Ahnaf and Shafi'i, Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i, who say the pasturing cows and sheep, not camels, you pay zakat on them. The non-pasturing cows and sheep, you don't pay. But Malik say exactly like the Zahiris. Now Ibn Hazm, when he discussed with Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i this, and the other people, the majority, even Sufyan Thawri said, I never thought, when he heard about Malik saying that non-pasturing cows, still you pay zakat, he said, I never thought that anyone will say something like this. You understand? Now, Ahmed, what's his name?
A pasturing cow is, you're feeding it, yeah?
No, pasturing cow is the one that you let go out and eat itself, like it goes to the field. You don't have to bring food at home and buy it and spend, or you understand? So they say if you have to spend on it, then you might even lose money. I mean, you don't get, so you pay zakat on it. You understand? Now, what is Ibn Hazm discussing? How he discuss it? You remember there is something called mafhum mukhalafa.
I don't understand it.
The opposite of the mukhalafa, the understand. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تُكْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ عَلَى الْبِغَاءِ إِنْ أَرَدْنَا تَحَصُّنًا. Let me explain to you in a way. You know mafhum mukhalafa. Mafhum mukhalafa is to when the Prophet says something, and they say because he said so, it should be the opposite in a different way. Like if the Prophet said, you have to give, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said you have to give zakat in your property, and then the Prophet said that in the pasturing sheep you give zakat, then the Shafi'is and Malikis and Hanbalis say because the Prophet said if you give zakat in the pasturing sheep, it means you don't give zakat in the non-pasturings. You understand? The Ahnaf and the Zahiris say no. If the Prophet say you give zakat in the Ahnaf don't use it here, but they generally this is what they say. They say we don't take mafhum mukhalafa. Meaning, if the Prophet says you give zakat in the pasturing sheep, he just spoke about that. Now, whether you give zakat in the non-pasturing sheep, that is something different. We have to look at. You understand? We are not going to say automatically because the Prophet said you give zakat on this. You understand? The majority will say, if it's the same, why would the Prophet add this word? Why would the Prophet say you have to give zakat in the pasturing sheep if non-pasturing sheep are the same? It will be like adding a word unnecessarily. This is what we call mafhum mukhalafa. The majority take mafhum mukhalafa. The Ahnaf and the Zahiris don't take mafhum mukhalafa. They say, if he says something with what we say, he said this is right. What he didn't speak about, we have to look, try to find it somewhere else. We don't take it from this hadith. You understand this? And he uses this evidence against the majority. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَا تُكْرِهُ فَتَيَاتِكُمْ عَلَى الْبِغَاءِ إِنْ أَرَدْنَا تَحَصُّنًا. Don't force your slaves into doing adultery or committing into prostitution if they want to be chaste. You understand? So, what if they don't want to be chaste? Do you force them? You understand? So this is how...
Why do it there? What he's saying, why don't they do it there?
No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't force your slaves into prostitution if the...
he's saying Ibn Hazm...
Ibn Hazm will say to the majority, okay, since you take it this way, then say here that okay, it's fine to force your slaves into prostitution if they are not, if they don't want, if they agree. So the answer, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله. The number of months are 12 amongst these 12 months are 4 that are sacred. So don't wrong yourself in them. So you don't wrong yourself in these 4 months. Do you wrong yourself in the other months? Now, the majority, when they say, why will Allah say this? Huh? If it's this and this is haram, so why does he say it's haram here? The answer for that can be like this.
So you have to look for it somewhere else.
No, I understand. You have to look for it for somewhere else. And we find that Allah has forbidden wronging yourself anytime. And Allah has forbidden prostitution all the time. But why did he say this? You can say, we don't know. You can say, because actually it is more. You see, if a woman wants to do prostitution, and you help her and order her to do it, then it's haram. It's even worse if she doesn't want to and you force her. You understand? It is haram if she wants and you help her and you order her, but it's worse. It is haram to wrong yourself any time in the year, but wronging yourself in these 4 months is even worse. That's why Allah mentioned it. Doesn't mean that. And sometimes is probably an answer for question. Like a man comes to the Prophet and asks, do I have to pay zakat on pasturing sheep? He will say yes. Pay zakat. Pay zakat on the pasturing sheep. He asked about pasturing sheep. He answered about pasturing sheep. He didn't answer about non-pasturing sheep. You understand? And we have examples like this. For example, Ibn Hazm, when he answered to the majority, it doesn't mean that he is right. I told you because it may be ziyadat thiqa. Maybe he took the hadith not fully. But the answer for, we are talking about mafhum mukhalafa now. When Allah subhanahu says, don't kill your children out of fear of poverty. Do you kill them for other reasons? You don't. But this is generally how people used to kill their children. People don't normally kill their children just like that. They kill them because out of fear of poverty. So he addressed this issue. Doesn't mean that you can kill them for, you understand? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says,
could that then be said about urinating in standing water then?
How?
Do not urinate
in stagnant water.
Stagnant water.
Yeah.
Urinate in stagnant water.
Yeah. Don't urinate in stagnant water. It's haram.
Okay.
Now if you say,
what does that mean?
It doesn't mean that you can urinate in the running water. But it doesn't mean that. But now if you say that you can't, then you have to bring a proof. I mean like sea or a river or and probably there is no proof for that.
Because that's what they attack Zahiris on.
Yeah.
They say, okay, I think it's made up, but they say, because you can't urinate in the water, well, you never said you can't poo in the water.
What?
Stagnant water.
Stagnant water. Look, the Zahiris have said exactly what we say about them. Zahiris said, if the Prophet said don't urinate in the stagnant water, that means don't urinate in the stagnant water. And anything else is not haram unless there is proof. Now it is haram. To if you water is property, and it's haram to waste property for no reason. So throwing anything dirty in the water, you have to show a reason why you are doing that. You understand? If there is a reason for doing it, which I don't think there will be any reason to throw dirt in the water to make the water dirty. You understand? So and the majority take this hadith almost literally as the Zahiris. For Malik, for example, the Malikis say you shouldn't urinate in the stagnant water. Like the Zahiris. And you shouldn't throw any dirt in the stagnant water. And But they say, if you do it, the hadith say don't urinate in the stagnant water and then use it to wash afterwards. The Malikis say you can use it to wash if it's still clean, if it doesn't show any. You understand? Say, yeah, because now when you stagnant water can be a dam. It's stagnant.
Yeah.
It can be a small lake.
Yeah.
It's stagnant.
But that's wrong for what they said there, the Malikis, isn't it?
The Malikis say you can't urinate in it or throw any dirt in it, which is people shouldn't pollute water, the drinking water of people. This water belongs to people. This water either belongs to you or belongs to people, so you shouldn't pollute the property of others. However, they say if you do it, the Zahiris say if you do it, then that water, even still clean, sometime, like a dam is not going to be dirty just because someone urinated in it, because it will like dissolve in the water. The Zahiris say if someone does it, then it's forbidden, that water is forbidden for him. It's not forbidden for other people. Because they didn't do that. The Malikis say it's not forbidden for everybody, including the one who the Prophet told he shouldn't use it. You understand? To clean himself from it. These Shafi'is who say, oh, look at the Zahiris, they follow the hadith exactly like without understanding. They just follow the wording. The hadith say, don't urinate, don't urinate. Stagnant water, stagnant water. And this is mostly, who speaks about this is Ibn Salah and Ibn Salah and Nawawi, who made it like a big issue. Now everybody hears about Zahiris. What they do is they say, you can't urinate in water, but you can do whatever you like in the water. No, you have to understand how he said it. He said, as long as there is no other proof, then if the Prophet said, don't urinate, that means don't urinate. Don't use it yourself, but anybody else can use it. The Shafi'is still say, take this hadith, and there is another hadith that says, if the water is 2 jars, then it will never accept dirt. The Shafi'is say, if the water is 2 jars, below 2 jars, and you throw them in them, 1 drop of urine, they are dirty. The whole water is dirty if it's less than 2 jars. But if it's more than 2 jars, you can throw in it 10 kilos of dirt. It's still clean. That is Zahiris. That is exactly what Ibn Hazm is saying. You are following only that you are following a hadith that is weak rather than the hadith which is sahih. And actually Nawawi himself, after he says this about the Zahiris, what he says if someone is in a bath, now this is stagnant water in a bath, if it's the plug is in there, that is stagnant water. Now Ibn Hazm says if someone urinates in it, it's haram for him to use it, to bath in it. Nawawi says if this water is below 2 jars, then it's haram, it's dirty. But it's more than 2 jars, then it's fine. But what he say, again, to see how Zahiri he is when he likes, he say if the water is in the bath and someone urinate in it, then he can't use it. But if he take the plug off,
now it's running,
then it's fine, he can use it. You understand?
Yeah.
So that is Zahiris. This water earlier was haram. You just take the plug off, and it's still the same water. And now it's halal. So it is. So you shouldn't. You just have to find the answer from their own questions. You understand? I tell you something. Ibn Hazm say another thing. Ibn Hazm say if someone urinate in the water, stagnant water, then the water is forbidden for him to use. If he urinates.
If he gets a cup.
But if he gets a cup and he throw it in the water, then the hadith, and then throw it in the water, then the water is clean for him to use. Now, whether the man can do that or not, that is, of course, the water shouldn't be. You should never cause a property.
But Masri's, we talked about this when we were doing the Muhalla.
Yeah.
He goes, when you urinate in the cup, and then you pour it in the water, he's saying, well, you have put the urine in the water.
Yeah.
He goes, you still urinated in the water.
No, it's not true.
Because he goes, you have put the urine. I thought it sounded a bit.
No, I tell you something. In the water. But this is how I say it. This is how I say it. It's not question.
Urinated means.
Yeah, just talk with your mouth. People don't talk with their hands.
Alright. But I said to him.
Yes.
It says. I said to him, the hadith said, the one, do not urinate in the water. So I said, urinate means urinate, doesn't it?
Yes.
And he goes, no, urinate.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean urinate. Doesn't mean that he took the taking the cup. Now taking the cup and putting it in the water. Some people might use this hadith, the hadith of Bani Israel, which is weak. It's narrated by Ibn Abi Dunya, Ibn Battah. It says that, may Allah curse the Jewish. Allah has forbidden them the fat of the camels. Then what they did is to it says, the hadith of Ibn Battah, it says like this, may Allah curse the Jewish, that they played they changed the religion of Allah with the small stuff, like the ploy. Like Allah will say something and then they will go around it. You understand? This hadith, that hadith is actually weak. The hadith that says that they were forbidden to fish on Saturday, and then what they did, they went and put the net on Friday and took it on Sunday. That hadith is weak. Probably if they have done that, they were forbidden to fish on you understand? Putting a net on Friday might be, and the fish will come in it on Saturday, might be fishing on Saturday. I mean, when you do something, you don't have to do it physically. I mean, doing something, you don't have to do it physically. You can program a machine to do something on and then you are doing it. I mean, if I say, oh, I built this mosque, or I built this house, or doesn't mean that I did it myself. When we say the mosque in Medina was built by the Prophet and then rebuilt by Umar, doesn't mean that the Prophet was laying brick after brick, or Umar ibn Khattab was the one who was putting the bricks. He is the one who ordered that. You understand? We say it. I bought a house in somewhere. You didn't buy it. You just gave money to someone and said, go and buy it for me. That means you bought it. You understand? So that is possible that it will be haram for that reason. But it's different here when we say someone urinated in the water and someone, let's say, take the saying of, but to answer it to the majority, it's like this. Okay, you say what Ibn Hazm said here is wrong. It may be that he is wrong for a different reason, but not for the reason that you are saying, that we have to do qiyas. If the Prophet said don't urinate, then he means don't pour it in it. Because if you say this, then I will use this against you. Layth ibn Sa'd say, if a woman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, that is forbidden for you, your children, from breastfeeding. But it doesn't say from breastfeeding. It says أمهاتكم اللاتي أرضعنكم. Your mothers that breastfed you. Now later Ibn Sa'd says, if a woman take the milk out of her breast, put it in a cup, and this is given to a child, no matter how much he takes, he is not her child, because she never breastfed him. Abu Hanifa says, if this milk is put with something else, with bread or something, and fed to a little child, then he is not the son of the woman. Malik says, if this milk is poured into some kind of soup, and the child eat it, then he is not her child. Now I say, this is exactly what Ibn Hazm said. So you shouldn't talk against him. So you understand?
Urinate.
Yeah. So this is exactly. Yeah. So this is what the. So this is what the should say the same thing here.
So you still have to shower in that.
Huh? No, I don't say you have to. Of course, if someone does it, and the water is not dirty, we don't say that it's right to do it. It's right to do it. No, it's not, I don't say it's not wrong as well. I say it's not right to do it because it is haram to pollute the water. Water is something that Allah has created, clean. You don't go to something clean and make it dirty. I mean,
evidence.
ولا تفسدوا
I can't think of
the general thing is clean is good, dirt is bad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وَالرُّجْسَ فَهْجُرْ, and رِجْسٌ مِنْ عَمَلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. The dirt is from the shaitan work, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهَا. Don't corrupt the land after it was made. It has been made. Islah is reforming. So to go and around, for example, burning corpse or polluting the air or doing anything that will change the environment from anything, making something right wrong, or making it's halal and you make it in a way to transfer it to become haram. You know, if the water is halal to drink, to be used, and then you go put anything in it, so it becomes dirty and it's not good to be used. That is their general rule. وَلَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهَا. You understand? So I am not saying it's halal to throw the urine inside the water. But when did Allah forbid us? Now, if someone does it, but it's never become dirty, what is the proof that he can't use it? But if you urinate directly, then there is proof. Well, we can't continue with.
No.
We have to stop here.